So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the June public meeting of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3F. I'm Maliki Nugent, Commissioner for 3F06, and I'm the chair. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll introduce ourselves and establish quorum. Pat?
Commissioner Pachkopchik, 3F07.
Andrea Molad, 3F05.
Shirley Edelstein, 3F02.
Allie Gresham, 3F04, and I have laryngitis, so it might be fun tonight.
Mary Beth Ray, 3F3.
David Dickinson, 3F01.
Okay. So we'll approve the agenda. The agenda was circulated a week ago. We have a couple of changes. I understand that Pod number 9 is not coming up today, right?
Correct. I was going to say that.
Okay. But we are adding Solina essay, right?
No.
Oh, soapstone,
no,
just soapstone.
That's correct. That's the only change.
That's the only change?
Yes.
Okay, are there any other changes to the agenda?
So what happens? Solina's not or is?
No. it is
Solina's not coming up.
It's
soapstone.
not on here. It's
No.
correct. They
Okay, so
haven't.
We're just striking item 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Any other changes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So we'll-
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay, so we'll move to commissioner announcements. Pat, you want to start?
Sure. Just a single announcement. The construction project for the utility work at Tilden Hall at the corner of Tilden and Connecticut began in earnest this week. It was delayed for a couple of weeks because of new material regulations required by the city. That said, it has begun. It's expected to last about 4.5 to 5 weeks, taking place just between the rush hours each day, Monday through Friday, and Saturday work. It should be a temporary inconvenience for all of us. It should be over in about 4.5 to 5 weeks, like I mentioned, and I appreciate everyone's patience with it. That's all I have.
I have nothing.
Just a reminder that the 3F02 community meeting, quarterly community meeting, will be next Tuesday, the 28th at 3003 Van Ness. That's open to all 3F02 residents. And Teresa Cameron from Van Ness Main Streets will be attending to talk about economic development in the Van Ness area. That's it for me.
Okay. So Nancy is not here. So I will announce the Mural DC project is an initiative here in the city that was created in 2007 to paint surfaces that were in danger of being tagged with graffiti or gang signs and things like that. And it has expanded around the city. They produce murals, and they have produced 60 murals in every ward of the city so far, including Ward 3. The DPW Salt Dome over in Fort Reno Park apparently has one, which I haven't seen, but I plan to go and look at it this weekend. But 5501 Connecticut Avenue, which is the building that Jake's is in, has applied for a mural and has been approved for a mural to be painted on the wall, the blank wall that faces the Exxon. So they're starting the process to come out to the community to talk about the sorts of things that we would like to see in a mural. And there is a mural concept development guide out on the table that asks characteristics of your neighborhood that could be incorporated into the mural, significant history, some images that come to mind when you think of your neighborhood, that sort of thing. So this is out there for the community to take a look at and to weigh in, send your responses to Nancy Lyons, Department of Public Works, and we will we'll keep you updated on the process as it continues.
Do they have any ideas of what they...
I don't know, and Nancy was going to come tonight, but she was having trouble with the rain, so she may still show up at some point.
Okay.
Cool.
I just wonder, is it possible to, like, instead of a mural, have a green wall, like, as in plants? I would just put that out there as a possible alternative, because I feel like we have so much hardscape, and you know, more landscape, softscape would be
My s-
aesthetically pleasing.
My sense is that the owner of the building would be open to that if there were a city program, and this is a city program that's willing to do it. If we found a city program that would do such a thing, I think he'd be open to it, but this is not that program. So, if you know of something, let's talk.
Okay, well, maybe UFA. I don't know. I'll follow up with Vera and see if she has anything.
Great. Sally?
Okay, my turn. I'll do my best. Park Fitness update. A big thank you to Saul for hosting a recent grand opening party for the design, construction, and ANC teams who worked so hard on the building for 3 years and make it a reality. It's a lovely building. It's a great addition to our hood. Go take a tour. Say you're looking for an apartment and go take a tour. They know we're all coming. The building is in the final punch list stage. There are 90 apartments out of 271 have been leased as of last week. The rooftop pool and deck open Memorial Day. There are 2 construction tenant activities that are happening in June and July. 2 businesses, Svalina Restaurant and Soapstone Market, are Park Fitness's 2 commercial tenants, which you all know. Svalina is located on the south side, and Soapstone is located on the north side. Svalina Restaurants is in the final stages of interior and design drawings. They submitted to TOPS, but they are redoing their enclosed sidewalk and open sidewalk cafe. They're going from a canopy to a glass structure, so it has to be resubmitted. They're coming to our July 19th ANC meeting with that design, and then they go to public space on July 28th. They are thinking they will open roughly 1st of November 2016. Soapstone Market, Tracy Standard is here, the owner. And John, hi John, continues to build out their interior tenant fit-up space. The exterior public space drawings are in progress and will be submitted to TOPS real soon. Targeted opening date is late August, before DCPS opens, which I don't know that date, but at our last July 19th, at our 19th meeting, July 19th meeting, Tracy and the design team, I assume, will present the unenclosed sidewalk cafe design. And Tracy Standard is here tonight to talk about the liquor license settlement agreement that we have done together. Forest Hills Park and playground update. The baseball field is, after multiple maintenance requests from the ANC, is getting a new concrete pad at the entry to the field, and we're getting 2 or 4 new standard trash receptacles, so the birds and animals don't make a field day there. The Friends of Forest Hill Playground cleanup was June 4th, rain date. Big thanks to the volunteers and kids who did a great job. They got rid of a lot of bad toys, which was really good. Again, from additional maintenance requests, the DGS is going to do a very belated spring cleanup of the entire park and the sloped hillside, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. The big news is, from last month, the Friends of Forest Hills Playground is having their first concert Picnic in the Park series this coming Friday. Spread Love is the performer. They're a very lively jazz and pop band. Bring your blankets, your picnic dinner. You can buy pizza from Armand's, and there'll be lots of fun, so please join us. This flyer is on the back table.
I have 9 really short announcements. Don't panic. And some of these I'm just going to tee up, and then hopefully Teresa Cameron, our Venice Main Street Executive Director, can talk more about them. First of all, the UDC Farmers Market is open on Saturdays, and Teresa will talk more about some of the lively things that we're going to add to embellish the farmers market. Second, there was a maker fair at UDC, and it was a huge success. Teresa will talk more about that. We started Art All Night meetings. Mark your calendar for Saturday, September 24th. Van Ness is going to be a new venue in the Art All Night series, and again, Teresa will tell you more about that. The Van Ness Main Street is working with our clean team to plant the tree boxes along Connecticut Avenue. And it is a slow and excruciating process because the tree boxes are, if they're not already full of concrete and rocks, they're as hard as concrete. So I have been out there with a sledgehammer the last few days.
Backhoe, we need a backhoe.
And we need Sally out there with with the sledgehammer. Anyway, look for improvements in that direction. The Office of Planning secured a $50,000 Kresge Foundation grant for Van Ness to develop a public art project. And they have hired an artist by the name of Tindani.
Yeah.
And we had our first meeting.
Can I ask how to spell that?
He's from Ward 8, and he's done some really clever and creative placemaking. And so he has some ideas, and we've done some thinking over the last 3 or 4 years with the Van Ness Vision Committee. And so the first meeting was held this week, and just a lot of creative energy. He's just an incredibly dynamic, friendly leader, and I think he's going to be a great person to kind of draw the community into the process and pull something really terrific together. Unfortunately, it's only a temporary art project, but the hope is that it will play off of the Art All Night art projects and then give us momentum to lead into something that's long-term and sustainable to really make Van Ness a cultural destination. Let's see, the fundraiser, the first fundraiser for Van Ness Main Street is tomorrow evening. I want to thank my neighbors, Michael Abrams and Sandy Stewart, for hosting that. And if anybody is interested in attending and you haven't already received an invitation, please see me because I'd love for you to come. It's $50 a person. Van Ness Main Street office space, I'm going to let Teresa talk about, and I'm going to let her talk about the food trucks. Finally, I just want to say that our neighbor Courtney Carlson, who was here last month talking about the water problems in her yard, we followed up with Mike Matthews at the mayor's office, and he is in touch with DDOT. DDOT has been out again to look at her property. They agree that the road is overpaved, and so they're hoping to get it on the agenda for a fall project. I'm not sure if that means get it on the agenda in the fall for a later date, or if that means get it on the agenda for work in the fall. And she followed up with that question, and they haven't responded. So it's, I know it's still a very frustrating situation. She sent me another video just a few minutes ago with the water pouring into her yard. So I just wanted to follow up on that since she came to our meeting last week. She's probably bailing out her basement right now. Otherwise, she'd probably be here. So we're going to continue to work on that.
Thanks. I've got 3 items, I believe, or at least 2. On July 12th, UDC is going to hold its so-called quarterly, I believe, Community Campus Task Force. I don't know if that's a public meeting or just with the ANC commissioners and a couple of...
It's public.
It is public. All right, well, that'll be a little more formal about it. Tuesday, July 12th at 6:30 in Building 44, Room A03 at UDC. They're still fleshing out the agenda for that meeting, but it includes so far a discussion of the Merch Elementary School swing space, which I assume is ongoing. They've got a Board of Zoning allowance or permit to proceed. So there'll be a discussion of that along with the sidewalk UDC Van Ness side, which I think is the Van Ness Street and just the brick sidewalk there and issues associated with that. An update or discussion about student housing, general discussion about communications with the community and probably even with the city, and just establishing a better line of communication, including about the events and activities at UDC. If anyone has any other items, feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out to Mr. Thomas Redmond at UDC at tredmond, REDMOND, at udc.edu. Second item is just sort of a quick update on the Hearst Park and Recreation Center. DGS, DPR, and the architect held an introductory meeting on May 10th, just to introduce themselves and kind of give a general outline of the process going forward. On this last Saturday, June 18th, they held their initial sort of design concept meeting, well attended at the school. Again, with DGS, DPR, and the architect, just an opportunity for the community to express their desires on different amenities, different programs that could occur at the park, different concerns, including hydrology, stormwater runoff, issues like that, along with just overall planning concerns with the renovation or expansion of Sidwell, Cathedral Commons, and just sort of this influx of activity in that area. So just sort of general planning and DDOT type of traffic and parking issues. Those governmental players are continuing to have a series of meetings. Their next one, I think, will probably be the end of July, and then throughout the fall. I think it's a very iterative process back and forth with the community. I'm also separately hosting meetings every Wednesday night at 6:30, probably for an hour or so, at the Hearst Recreation Cottage. It's an opportunity for anyone in the community, not just in ANC 3F, or 3F01, but also for citizens on the south side of the park that are in ANC 3C. There's certainly been a lot of concern expressed so far about how the budget was formulated, how decisions were made on the scope of the project, including a proposal or money in the FY19 budget for a pool. So there's certainly going to be a lot of continuing discussion about that. And these Wednesday night meetings particularly are an opportunity, I guess, for the community to vent and also to hopefully turn toward a more creative process. It's a wonderful opportunity there at the park with a lot of money slated over the next 3 fiscal years. We talked a little bit, or Mary Beth talked a little bit about public space. I frankly view this park as a great community public space opportunity, really to bring people together, not just around the planning, but the eventual design of the park. So that's ongoing. There are a lot of letters going back and forth with different constituents and different parts of the DC government. I'm looking eventually or soon to try to put a place on the RANC website, perhaps under events or activities, to just sort of have a Hearst Park parking lot for different documents. There's one particular letter from the director of DPR, Director Anderson, dated June 19th, that I'm very anxious to get onto our website and putting it into the public listservs as well. But it's just an attempt to kind of explain the process, what the criteria were for DPR to at least initially select Hearst as an appropriate place for a pool. Again, there's a lot of feedback, a lot of discussion that'll still take place on that issue. So stay tuned on that. We'll make sure that the July meeting be publicly announced in the listservs and hopefully on this RANC website as well. Again, the Wednesday night meetings. I'm skipping next Wednesday, but tomorrow night at the Hearst Recreation Cottage is an opportunity. The third item is a little bit unformed, but I wanted to let my fellow commissioners know that my day job is looking at transportation planning and emissions associated with different travel efficiencies at a local, state, and metropolitan planning level. So I've been asked to look at the Metro Safe Track process, and I know our commission, along with many others up and down the Connecticut Avenue corridor, are concerned about traffic impacts and from the Environmental Protection Agency's perspective also just emission impacts. So stay tuned on that. If people are interested in what our ANC or others can do, feel free to reach out to me. I'm trying to keep my day job conflict-free from my night job, but I'm happy to look into that more. I will mention that the University of Maryland is collecting a lot of data and doing a lot of projections on traffic and congestion impacts, delays on the metro, delays on certain corridors of car corridors. And I think several commissioners have expressed an interest in what we can do to encourage people to bike commute, to use other forms of perhaps cleaner transportation. And so I invite people to reach out, and that'll be an issue that I see heating up probably more. I don't have the notes in front of me, but probably more this fall when different areas of the red line are directly affected. That's all I have.
Should we announce that the west stairs was open?
The west stairs of the metro. Got it.
Till September.
Right, they're open until September again, and then they'll have to close to take out the next escalator. And that reminds me too, David. We also received the DDOT application for the trailer park for merch at UDC. I don't know if you received these plans as well.
No, I haven't.
But we will need to look at these. They just came in to my house yesterday, so we'll need to take a look at them, and we'll have to put it on our agenda for the July meeting.
Sorry,
because
Malachi, what are those?
these are the DDOT public space plans for the merge,
Swing space.
the merge swing space
At
at
UDC.
UDC.
And generally speaking, that's the
This is the,
Looks like a prison camp.
yeah,
It's
but the
42
curb cuts
trailers.
along Van Ness primarily.
yes.
I would like to just quickly note that when we look at that in July, that on 36th Street, which is on the west side of the campus, almost west of all
No,
the.
this is a
This is
swing.
different.
I understand.
Okay.
As part of that swing space, 36th Street, which is on the west side of the larger campus, if you will, has a series of parking meters. So I wanted to just put it on public notice that I'd like to see if we can't work with DDOT to get those temporarily stopped or removed during the swing space operation.
At the SIP meeting, they talked about that. They also talked about Yuma Street, because that's going to become a drop-off
Right,
near the amphitheater.
right.
So they did talk about all these different things, which should be noted on the top submittal, but they didn't have that ready at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to the treasurer's report and the approval of the quarterly financial report.
So I did circulate the quarterly financial report ahead of time to all of you, so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. I also have a hard copy here if anyone would like to see it.
Do you have an extra hard copy?
Yeah, I just have.
Oh, that's okay.
To look at
Okay.
it. I'm
Sorry,
intimately
I didn't
familiar
have
with
time
it.
to look
I
at
don't
it.
need to look at it. So just for the audience, this is a regular report that we file with the city on a quarterly basis that shows all of our expenditures and so forth to make sure we're doing everything by the book, which we do, of course.
Are we supposed to do anything with this? 'Cause-
We just need
No,
to
if
approve
you
it.
haven't,
Well,
if you have any
the problem is
questions.
we got it at 2:00. I
What
don't,
is-
I haven't had time to look at this.
What is the purchase of service? 2778.
Those were the web development.
Okay, and then personnel is Rachel.
Mhm.
I see.
You should explain it or go over it to some degree. Since
Well,
we
it's
just had it.
really straightforward. It basically includes, for this quarter, every check that we wrote this quarter, all the money we received, which is just interest in our checking account, about $5 a month. We upload our bank statements and our minutes for the month, and that's basically it. It automatically updates all the other numbers related to our budget. So that's not something we input this quarter. It's just kind of automatically calculated based on the checks that we enter.
This isn't new. This is something that we approve every quarter.
Oh, I know, but we just haven't had a lot of time to look it over.
And in fact, I'm not even sure how much it's been circulated in the past. If that's been.
Shirley,
Yes.
is there a line item there for the total amount of grants that we did this quarter?
No.
We do have a budget line item for grants, and I can tell you that to date, we have budgeted for the year $25,000, and we have dispersed $9,000. That's in my budget. I'm not.
Okay.
So that is produced using kind of an online interface that the auditor's office maintains, whereas we also have our own budget spreadsheet, which is a little bit easier to look at, I would say.
Okay, so it looked like in quarter one there was 6,000 under the grants, and maybe quarter two was another 3. I don't know if you have it broken down that way. I'm just kind of curious what that looks like. With
Yeah, so this is just the quarter two report.
Right.
So
Right, that
the
would-
quarter one report would have the quarter one,
One of those would have been Pierce Mill,
which was 3,000.
3,000.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
It's listed on here as number 5, 6,000 in quarter one.
Right. That's, I was just trying to
I
figure
mean,
out if there was anything
it's
in
on the
quarter
front
two.
page, the 25. Okay.
Okay. Do you have more specific questions? Now, I'd like to make a motion to approve this, and then if you want to follow up with Shirley, we can.
Okay.
Or approve the report.
Okay, I just wanted to know if this doesn't really have anything to do with this, but did everybody on the commission receive the report from Kathy Patterson on all ANCs through last year,
Oh, yeah.
their accounting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
that,
think
that's
we
available
as an
online.
ANC should look at a couple of things on that for our own ANC.
There was an email?
No,
There's a
it was
hard
an
copy
envelope,
report that
a
should
hard
have come to your
copy.
No, okay.
Did you get it? Okay, you did.
It's
not
the
get it.
annual report of the finances of the
Yes,
ANC.
annual
Okay.
report.
Okay, so the motion is
Second.
to approve the quarterly financial report as circulated.
Second?
Oh, any other debate? All in favor? Okay, so that passes. Okay, so we'll move to committee reports. Pat, do you have anything for Soapstone?
Sure. The Soapstone, Melvin Hayes, and Parks and Trails Committee met last Monday. That meeting, we codified 3 subcommittees, the Projects and Partnerships Committee, the Stormwater Mitigation Subcommittee, and the Soapstone Sewer Rehabilitation Subcommittee. We also decided to focus on subcommittee work for this upcoming month, and there will be no July meeting of the full committee. Our next meeting will be the second Monday in August, just down the hall in the conference room here at 7 o'clock on that second Monday in August. I'm not sure what the date is off the top of my head. If you're interested in joining it, all of these meetings are open to the public. We'd love to have you there. Feel free to contact me, and I can tell you more about it.
August 8th.
August 8th. Thank you.
And let me remind commissioners to send all of these events and announcements to Rachel to put on our ANC calendar. So meetings, committee meetings, David, your meetings, your regular meetings, let's put those on.
Okay.
And anything else that came up during announcements.
I'll get you all the meetings for the rest of the
Okay.
year.
Thanks. Any other committee reports? Okay, good. So we will move on to the police report. I see Lieutenant Durant's here.
Hi, how's everybody today?
Great.
I know a couple of you were included in an email.
The big announcement is
Yeah,
you're not our
I'm no
lieutenant
longer your
anymore.
PSA lieutenant. Lieutenant Hughes, the weather was really bad where she lives. She wasn't able to make it in today. I think they had some real, pretty big microburst. So she said there was a lot of trees down and stuff. But she will be coming to these meetings. I was going to come with her anyway. Couple issues that you asked about. The Bread First robbery case is still open. I mean, and they kind of know who they want to talk to, and they kind of got something I'd done. Without getting into too much, they didn't get a hit back from CODIS, which is the DNA that they were hoping to get back. However, I do think the establishment of the beat book, and we've had to assign special beats up here. I know they have one up in that area now. I do think that's helped. So we haven't had, or I haven't heard of any more robberies, and I went through them tonight before I came. You asked about one on Nebraska. That was actually kind of an attempt robbery where the woman kind of fought the person off, and that ended up being tied to another robbery that was committed down in Georgetown. So I do believe they have a closure on that.
There was a series, I think, over the course of about an hour or 2 hours maybe. It
There
came
was-
down Nebraska,
there
and
was-
we went down Connecticut,
there
and
was,
down Albemarle.
Some that happened, from what I researched tonight, there was some that happened over on the 202 side, up by Davenport, that's on Brandywine, but I couldn't find what you were asking about. So they may not have been classified robberies. I checked thefts, they didn't come up there, or assaults. In the 3500 block of 34th, there was a woman robbed at knife point. So he came up from her behind, got her purse, and that case, they haven't had anything else on that. I've been at it 203 about a month now. I still look. Things have been pretty good, except for the thefts and the theft from auto still. Our buddy at the park, I guess he came back and secured a bunch of stuff, a table and a kettlebell and some other stuff to the fence. Somebody decided to let us know, which was great, and we took it. So I haven't heard anything from him. The word was left that he can come see us at the police station if he wants it. He never picked it up.
Last time it was at the bike rack. Did you get it from the
What,
bike
what
rack?
it was chained to something. It was a white table. It was a kettlebell.
Yeah,
So it was
at
probably
rack.
the bike rack.
It was at the fence, then it moved to the, I don't know,
Yeah,
from the fence to the bike rack.
it's in the evidence room at 2DA. So,
Well, nobody has said he's there, but
maybe he was upset. I don't know. That's one of the things I briefed Lieutenant Hughes on. Lieutenant Hughes has been around for a while. She's been around 28 years. She's experienced. But over the next year, you're going to see some changes. Many of us aren't going to be here. One of the problems that you got in the second district is all your senior leadership, your lieutenants and captains and commander, we can all go in a very not too distant future, and most of us will. So I'll be around for just a little shy of another year or so, But something you mentioned that I wanted to piggyback, we do have extra officers working rush hours because of safe traffic. So to help alleviate some of the traffic problems in the area, we have created overtime. I do know that the mayor's office has pledged to hire more traffic aides. I can tell you, trying to get around here, especially downtown, it's getting bad. My thought with the traffic aides, I think it's a great program, but sometimes they kind of inhibit traffic a little more than they probably help traffic. When you direct traffic, the key is to get things to go with the traffic lights that are already in place. So that's about all I got. Does anybody have any questions?
I have go ahead, Pat.
No, after you.
I just a follow-up question on the safe track. Remind me when the red line work will be performed.
That I do not know.
I'm just kind of curious where you've seen those more immediate impacts, and whether that's along the Connecticut Avenue corridor or Wisconsin, or
Where we've seen the traffic that we've seen, a lot has been Connecticut, DuPont, downtown area. And I don't know if that's people just hearing safe track and driving in, even though their metros may be open. but that's what we've experienced firsthand. I don't know the schedules on when they're closing what metros. I know they're very easy to find online. So that should pretty much, the only thing I do know is that it's scheduled over the next year, I believe.
Yeah, I think 17 months total or something,
So
yeah.
that's a lot. Hopefully we won't see the big effect here. I imagine when they start closing things coming down from Montgomery County, you will see heavy influxes of traffic inbound and outbound Connecticut Avenue.
Yeah. This is just a reminder. If you could, I look at the reports every week, and it's always theft from auto. And if you could just take a moment to remind everybody in the audience and at home what the proper way to do it, especially with it heating up and people in their cars.
Well,
more,
the biggest thing with theft from autos, and I know we do talk about them a lot, it is a crime of opportunity. And if you read the reports and if you go on the crime reports, it's consistently money, articles of clothing, computers, cell phones, GPS devices, anything they think that they can make a buck. A lot of times, people will go to the restaurant, then they'll put all their valuables in their car in front of the restaurant, and most of these cars you can get into by just pressing a button to get in the trunk anyway. So it is education about leaving stuff of value in your vehicles. I'd like to see the area. I work down in Georgetown now. That's where I got sent, and down there I'm trying to get a lot of the merchants, and I'm sure we're going to have additional problems because they just lifted the liquor moratorium on Georgetown, so you're probably going to see a lot of bars and nightclubs opening back up down there, with people coming and leaving valuables in their vehicles to try to educate. They have the the businesses put literature up and say, hey, look, you can't do this. It's unfortunate you can't do it. It usually isn't packs. It's usually like one or two guys, and when they get caught, you'll see the thing drop off. So that's the issue, but it really is all about being smart. And I think I came here to a meeting and tell you I left my cell phone in the car and it got broken into and stolen. So,
The squad car?
No, it was my personal and I don't even.
It's only in the movie.
I don't know if I even locked the door. I walked in the store with my daughter, and when she came out, she's like, "Somebody got your cell phone now?" So, well, it sucked because it was the job cell phone, and they weren't happy about it.
At least it wasn't your gun.
No, but I didn't walk away without them giving me a reminder not to lose my cell phone again. That's about it. Things up here, one of the things when Lieutenant Hughes was coming up here and changes were being made, I told her you were a very involved community and a good community to work with, and I think that'll be good. She's going to be responsive. I've known her for 26 years, so I can tell
I
you.
look forward to meeting her.
Does she have an email? Or?
Yeah, it's I want to say Corinne, CORRINE .Hughes, HUGHES maybe. If you ever have an issue you want to get in touch with one of us, if you go to MPD's website, we're all under the district roster, and it'll be a direct link. I may have spelled their name wrong. That's why I was asking.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know that you were copied on an email that I had with Lieutenant Hughes about the homelessness issue that we've had.
About a guy on the
Yeah.
loading dock.
I haven't gotten any updates. I was just wondering if you
Okay, I'll ask her about it. Because when I said I would send somebody by that day, I just don't remember the exact address. But I do know the email that you're talking about.
Great, thank you.
But I will. I'll follow up with her on that. Are you guys having a meeting in July?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't know a lot of the ANCs called.
Probably won't in August.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Shirley's question about the homeless population and then ask another question too. What is appropriate? Should we email Lieutenant Hughes when there's a homeless person?
This is the issue of it all. It's not a police department.
Right.
And will facilitate and assist, but give you an example, down in front of the AFL-CIO, there's a woman that has set up camp in a green space in front of that building. It is very hard. We cannot just go down and take down her tent and all that. there's a series, it's almost like they have to get an eviction order for her for
Right,
public
right,
space. Where we come into play is if the person is a danger to themselves or to others, then that in that instance, we can treat them as a mental health consumer and we can involuntarily commit them. But part of that is, if you're not a medical professional relaying this information to us, we have to observe the behavior.
Right.
Now, by all means call, because there are organizations within the city government that can go out and see if this is a person in crisis or person in need. And one of the things that I do see people all the time, and I'm not begrudging anybody anything, but when you give these people money that live like this, you facilitate them not getting the help that they need. Also, another quick story, I know you got a full agenda. I went to the Giant next to the police station to get dog food on the way home. I saw the guy that acts like he's homeless out there with his can, smoking a cigarette with one of the store employees. I overheard the conversation. She asked him what he was getting ready to do. He said, I'm gonna go home and shower. Can I meet you at the bar in an hour? Now, that guy isn't homeless sitting out there with his can begging for money. It's obvious that that's his ploy. So there's a lot of people down here that do that, and they're really not people in need. That's just how they make money. But if, by all means, email Lieutenant Hughes, and if you see somebody that's like, obviously, it might get very hot here during the summer. It's 100 degrees out, and they're under their blanket, so they have their parka on, and we've probably all seen they do it around the city. Call us, because that is somebody that may very well not be able to make a decision and not realize, hey, you know, during the winter we deal with the hypothermia, but you also have hyperthermia during the summer, and people do die from it being too hot, so we can deal with that. All right?
Well, I understand the maze of social services and
Great.
the complicated legal issues and everything. I think it would just be helpful for the community to have a single point of contact, like a
Well, definitely call
hotline
Lieutenant
or
Hughes. I mean,
something.
send Lieutenant Hughes an email, and she can
Yeah.
send it out from there. And I, by the way, I wasn't trying to be dismissive of the police department saying it's not our job.
No, I understand.
Please call, because
Yeah.
we probably have a lot more contacts, or we deal with people a lot more. We might be able just to pick up a phone and call somebody and say, hey, can you send somebody out and check on this guy?
Right, right. And then my second question is, I know we have some neighbors talking about the people using Brandywine Street as kind of a raceway, and I think it's, you know, an exit from the park, and people use it as a commuter route.
Sure.
And I know you all have been patrolling that, but do you
Yeah.
have any
A
information?
lot of these traffic complaints that came into me when I was in 203, we have assigned traffic units. Officer Franchek, especially in the mornings, trying to catch people rush hour. He is out there, but actively doing it. I would like to say that there were more people to dedicate to that, but sadly there's not. If one of the things we can do if we have a street that we have a lot of issues like that, we can ask DPW to do a traffic study. Perhaps speed bumps are appropriate. You have seen them on other streets around here. I know they've even gone as far as putting traffic circles in some really bad places. That's something that you would have to work out with them. We'll do what enforcement actions we can do. And I can tell you, Franchek writes things, because I see is having to go to traffic court notifications all day long. So.
Go ahead, Nye.
You have another?
No, I think
No, sure.
Andrea had something and I had some.
Yeah, so
Wait, whoa. Go ahead.
back to the question of homeless people. It was my understanding that there was a rule change recently related to the closing of GC General and the soon to opening of the new temporary shelters. That it was my understanding that in DC you can't ask a homeless person to vacate a place anymore. I was told that a couple of times related to some homeless that have set up in tents in my single member district. I was told that by the park police, who say that they are following the DC law and that they are no longer able to go and ask these people to vacate their place.
I don't know about that, but I will also say that park police, and I'm trying not to criticize the law enforcement agency here, they're not gonna move somebody out of the park.
Apparently, they're not even allowed to approach them to ask them to leave.
I would go a little further than just believing an individual officer that told you that.
I have the name of the head of the park police
Well, then
station.
that's more information than I I can look that up for you, or I can find out about it. You want to shoot me an email?
But they were, I can shoot you an email, but they were saying that they have to follow DC law and that that's what they're following. Is that not correct? That
I
there's a
have not
DC law?
seen anything that said, well, hang on a second. Like I just explained before, when we're dealing with another person, they said basically you have to get an eviction order to take them off of public space. So are you asking me, to the best of my knowledge, can we just go and tell them to pack up all their stuff? We're calling DPW, and if you don't come and get it, we're throwing it out? I don't understand what you're asking me. I don't know if they've changed any type of law when it comes to dealing with homeless people on the street. I just know what I've known from the past. So if there's an update about not being able to ask somebody to leave, I don't know.
But at any rate, it would be a different situation in park space versus, say, the Walgreens lot, which is actually not public space.
Let me qualify that. The Walgreens lot is private property. If they don't want somebody on their private property, they have the right to serve somebody off their property. And the district hasn't passed any legislation that I'm aware of that inhibits you from property you own for telling somebody to leave. So again, that's where.
But you're talking about a park space.
I think, Andrea, the point that he makes about, is the person a danger to himself or to others? I mean, if he's living in the park and using the park as, a bathroom, basically, then that could be a possible approach to have action taken. I can talk to you offline.
I feel like
Okay.
I didn't make myself.
There's also an organization out there that is supplying tents for homeless people to go
Right.
and live in DC Parkland because they know that they can't be asked to leave from there. So I was just asking about that whole situation.
And I'm sorry I don't have a
We need
better
to go
answer for
after
you,
the
but
person supplying the tents.
All right, let's try to find out some more information because we clearly don't know all the details.
But I do want to just, it is not something that the police are going to be involved in dealing with a homeless person unless that person is a danger to themselves.
No, but it's helpful for us all to know that we can use the police as the first point of
We
contact.
can definitely reach out
and
to
then
other
you can
city
help.
agencies,
Right.
but an officer isn't going to come there and tell somebody to pack up their stuff.
Okay, Dave, do you have something?
Yeah, real quick. Can you describe the process that I or others in the community would use if we want a particular street monitored for safety and for traffic violations, including, for example, Van Ness Street?
The basically would be email Lieutenant Hughes and bring her the information. If we have manpower available, we'll try to assign somebody to do traffic enforcement. Part of the problem is that, and I don't like to come to these meetings and say, some days we just don't have people to do it, but some days we just don't have people to do it.
Okay.
But if it's an ongoing problem, we can identify it. Some days when we do have weekends where everybody's working or days when everybody's working, we can identify that and say maybe we'll do a safety and compliance checkpoint in that block, and then we meet the legal standard because we have the documented traffic complaints that come from that area.
Okay.
But definitely, if you have an area, call, send emails. Again, we can also, there's other city agencies, we can say, hey, can you do a traffic study in here? Maybe there's something, maybe the speed limit's too fast. I don't know if they'll put a speed camera, but they can put barriers in there to keep people from speeding down that block.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming up and
Listen,
doing this.
It was nice working with you all.
Yep.
Good luck.
I know
Doing
that we spent a lot of time working on camera.
Sorry, I'll miss you.
Anything I can do for anybody, please feel free to contact. And again, if you want to send me a follow-up about the homeless issue, I'll see what I can find out for you.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, we're going to move to open forum now. So I'll ask people who have something that they want to share with the community to come up to the microphone over here. And identify yourself, please.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Lyons. I'm with the Department of Public Works. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, can I ask you your name?
I'm Nancy Lyons. I'm with the D.C.
Oh,
Department of
Nancy.
Public Works. And I've been communicating with Commissioner Nugent about the DPW's Murals DC program. And I know that he spoke to it earlier and maybe even last month. Basically, just once again to reiterate that the property at 5018 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, right next to the Exxon, has asked for a mural on the side of their wall. So we do intend to paint a mural, but one of the things that we like to do is to incorporate things from the neighborhood. So if anyone would like to provide any sort of input that the artist, who we haven't selected yet, might consider when painting their design, I have some information, some sheets that I can leave, well, I can pass out or leave on the back table that just sort of helps to guide you through some things that might be, the artist might be looking for in terms of doing a mural that sort of tells a story about the neighborhood and the people in the neighborhood and the history of the neighborhood, that sort of thing. So I have information about Murals DC, which is basically a graffiti prevention program, and it's designed for buildings that get tagged a lot, and usually when we paint an original work of art, they no longer receive another, they don't usually get tagged again. I mean, we've done about 55 murals in every ward of the city, and I think maybe only 3 or 4 have been retagged. So that's typically the point of the program. But we also do murals on buildings that may not be tagged, but just would like an original work of art, and sometimes we select a wall to do that just to help promote the program. So I'll leave information about the program in the back, and also if you'd like to have some input on the mural, I'll leave the sheets here as well. And my information, my telephone number, and my email address is on the sheet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just have a quick question. What's your involvement with the project up on Wisconsin Avenue in Tenleytown? Do you know about that?
No, that's not
It's
a
different ANC, but I think there's a mural going in just south of Albemarle.
No,
Dry
this
cleaner.
is the only, that's also, I take Ward 3. Yeah, we only have one mural in Ward 3 currently, and this will only be our second mural in Ward 3. So we're not working on that.
Okay.
I can try to find out for you. I work with the Commission, our agency works with the Commission on Arts, and I can check with them to see if that's something that they're
I've just
funding.
seen it on the Tenleytown listserv traffic, and it seemed like there was a similar project going on.
Okay, yeah, there are a lot of private murals that go up. We've done maybe 55 in the city, so we don't have all of them, but I can check around.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
for coming
I'm
out.
sorry, just another quick question. So the process is basically, people are going to weigh in and send you emails, it should have this, it should have that,
Well,
the other, and then
so-
the artist is going to get chosen. Would the community have any input in terms of choosing which artist, or?
The property
approving the
owner
mural,
is the
or-
person who makes the ultimate decision on the artist. What happens is that in the spring, the Commission on Arts will do a call for artists, and so people will apply, they'll send their portfolios, we'll choose a number based on how many murals we tend to do each year, which is typically, we typically do between 6 and 8 murals a year. This year we're going to do very few, we're only going to do about 3 or 4, and we will usually pick maybe twice as many artists as we need, and we'll allow the building owners to select the artist. But this is just an example of the type of questions that we're asking. Name any significant history that is specific and important to your community. So it's basically not so much, we like to give the artists free range to express themselves creatively, but what we really want the murals to be able to do is to capture some things about the mural, about the community. For example, I'm not sure if you've ever seen, there's a mural in Adams Morgan, it's called Every Day I See Something New. It's on Colorama and Champlain, and to me that's an excellent example of what I think, what I like for our murals to do. That entire mural has maybe 20, 25 different things that can be found in that community. And it's right across from the Marie Reed School. And when the artist did it, she had the kids in mind, giving them something to look at. But it really is, it pays great homage to the community. So we do at least try to include some information about the history. There's a lot of rich history that a lot of people don't know about each community. So we like for them to tell a story. Maybe things that are characteristic of the community, if it's really known for its biking community, or something that sort of that the artist might want to pull out and include in the mural.
But, so the property owner is going to select the artist,
Right, the property owner will select from the list that we give them.
right? And will there be like an advanced drawing of the mural or something before it goes up for people to see or look at or
Is the
weigh in
ANC
on?
going to be part
Whether
of
the
This is
ANC
private property.
Right,
Yeah.
but you see
The
it
property
from-
owner, will the property owner?
The
see
property
it?
does see the design concepts.
It will
Typically,
see
we
the
might
design.
have one, in the past, we've had someone representing the community to also be a part of that selection process as well. It's certainly not a large, the more people you bring in, the less chance you'll actually be able to develop a mural.
Right.
But typically, we have had one person from the community who's been a part of the design selection process.
Is
But
that
of
going
course,
to happen this time, or?
well, we hadn't really counted on that. I mean, honestly, lately we really haven't had a lot of people really asking for input. So typically, it's been just the property owner. If one of the ANCs would like to be at the table, I can certainly reach out to you and let you know when we're gonna do that, so that you can look at it as well. And then, of course, the property owner has the final say in terms of what is painted. And of course, the city reviews it too to make sure that there's nothing that goes up that would be risque.
Yeah, and I'm in contact with the owner of the building, with Jake's, the management of Jake's there, and would be happy to.
Is there a problem with graffiti there already, or is it just for beautification?
It's just for
Yeah.
beautification. Yeah. I'd be happy to stay in contact with him and make sure that
Okay.
we all feel comfortable with what's going to go up. But
Okay. Any questions? Any more questions? Or any questions from the
Just to be sure.
residents? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll leave this information in the back.
thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Thorne Rankin, and I live at the corner of 30th and Brandywine, and I'm here to talk about traffic. I know we talked about it briefly, but I talked to, I talked to Officer Franchek. Actually, he was posted at our corner. He's great. But he says there's only so much he can do with the, as soon as his car leaves, that's a problem again. Yes?
Can I ask you to spell your name? for
Oh,
me,
yes,
please?
Thorne, it's Thorne. Last name is Rankin, Rankin.
Thank you.
So he told me, among other things, that we might consider signs, no driving through this and such street during rush hour. He said that the people who live on 36th Street, right at, on Garrison Street, I think, that comes into 36th, right behind Politics and Pros parking lot, terrible traffic problem. They got the no turn into our street. During rush hour, their traffic problem's gone. He was suggesting that if we had a sign down at Broad Branch where Nevada comes in, one at Davenport and one at Brandywine, no going through the neighborhood during rush hour, that would just, this whole problem would go away. And I know they have that in the village of Chevy Chase and the town of Chevy Chase. I think a lot of people who come through our neighborhood down 30th Street are just coming from Chevy Chase down the hill and right through. So I was just wondering, where would we begin, and would there be any support on the ANC for any further measures other than just getting the police to come, which it sounds like it isn't really a long-term solution?
We actually came to speak to the same issue.
Excellent.
Come ahead.
So it's just a terrible, terrible song.
This is my son Ben, who's in 4th grade at March, just finished 4th grade at March, and my daughter's a 6th grader and used to walk, and so we walk from 32nd and between Pheasant and Ellicott up to March every day. Ben walks by himself often, and I walk with our 5-year-old afterwards. And when he gets to the corner of 36th, right before Connecticut, when Officer Franchek is there, we are good to go. And when Officer Franchek is not there, Ben has to walk out into traffic on 36th Street because people don't want to stop at that stop sign because they want to merge onto Fessenden because they're cutting up through there to go. And I've said this before at ANC meetings, I'm a broken record, but I walk my daughter down Linian to Broad Branch and I see people race at 50 miles an hour up, and that's my daughter who's over there, who I've brought to the meeting as well, because I wanted to see that her mother is advocating for walkers and for our neighborhood and for people to value our community and value our kids and value walking and value living in a place where you can walk to where you go to school. And she doesn't go to school in this neighborhood, but she lives in this neighborhood and she still walks to the bus. And I want her to be able to do that independently. I want him to be able to walk to school independently. And I fear for him every day. And yet, he's a 4th grader, I want him to be able to walk to school. by himself. I walk with his brother separately, but for him to have the independence to walk 3 bloody blocks to his school seems like the right thing to be able to do for a child to do. And it's terrifying. And every time I see Officer Franchuk there, I thank him and I tell him, thank goodness you're here, because I worry about my kid walking very, very small distance to school. And I'm so appreciative that there's another person here that has the same worry, because I feel like every time I come here, people say, oh, well, you know, we all think this and but no one ever does anything about it. And when Officer Franchuk is there, it's a different world. And when he's not there, people are in that crosswalk every day, and I knock on the window and I say, you're in our crosswalk, and people have a baby in the back and they have a kid in the back and they're on their phones and they don't give a flying hoot about the fact that there's another child that's in their way, you know, that's just getting in harm's way in order to walk around them. So it's a real issue for us to feel like a community, to be able to let our kids have a shred of independence in this neighborhood. And I implore this group of people here to help us allow our children to have that. So, you know, thank you so much, and thank you for, I hope that you guys can help us feel that way, right? Don't you feel that way, Ben? It's hard to walk to school. You have to walk in the middle of the street, right?
There's a bunch of mud from a construction site, so I have to walk around that.
Because there's no sidewalk.
To a bend where everyone speaks.
Hey, Ben, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Where is there no sidewalk?
Fessenden, half of Fessenden up.
Where we tried to get the sidewalk.
But you know
We
what?
passed a resolution asking for the
Right, we
sidewalk
passed,
with maps
but
and
like
things
whatever,
that.
a year ago, we
Didn't hear
passed a
anything about
resolution.
this.
It takes about a year.
But
It
that's
took a
fine.
year
I
to
mean,
get the
but you know,
sidewalk in 30
more
seconds.
than a sidewalk, the issue is, like, if we had a sidewalk, maybe it would seem more like a thoroughfare. Because there's a sidewalk on Linnean and people drive 55 miles an hour up Linnean to cut through so they don't have to go up Nebraska to get to Connecticut. So, you know, the fact that I feel like sometimes I sort of butt out into the road to feel like I can make people slow down a shred when I'm there, because it's a thoroughfare, it's a cut through.
More potholes.
Okay,
Let's go down.
Yeah,
Ben,
sorry.
here's-
Okay.
What are your ideas, Ben?
My name is Ben Yarkin. I went to Murch Elementary last year, I guess. But now I'm going to Washington High. But I walk to Murch every day by myself because my little brother's usually getting dressed by the time I'm leaving. And there's a construction site where they demolished a house just near our house, and there's mud spilling, so I have to walk around that bend while cars are like speeding really fast. And
Because there's no sidewalk.
yeah, and that's just the start of my trek to school. And then
Which is only 2 blocks.
yeah, and then I walk up this big hill where there's no sidewalk, and then there's that
At Fessenden and 36.
Yeah, at
36, sorry.
Fessenden 36 where there's the crosswalk,
At the BP.
the BP, and there's always cars like right in the middle of that. And when like my mom said, when Officer Franchuk is there, there's no one.
There's cars on Connecticut in the box or cars on Fessenden in the box.
Cars on 36 in the box, cutting
But
on Fessenden.
he's on the north-south side of the street, right?
Ben is on the north side of the street, because the north side of the street is the only side of the street with
With a
a
sidewalk, right.
Okay,
Plus
let
it's on the north side.
me interject here, because these are all really important issues, and as you say, these are things that have come up in our ANC before, things that we've addressed. When Manoli was on the commission, we looked at a bunch of stop signs. You guys have done sidewalks all over
Yeah.
Forest Hills, or tried to do sidewalks. One of the things that we're going to do tonight, I'm hoping, is create a committee on the ANC to look just at streets and sidewalks issues, to take a comprehensive view at a lot of these sorts of things, see where the problems are greatest, and then have some follow-up on these sorts of issues. So I really appreciate both of you bringing these things to us tonight, and I'm hoping that if we create a committee tonight, it's something that a vehicle that we can use to pull all of this together, to bring in community members to help us carry some of these things forward. And hopefully we'll see some action.
Thank you so much, because I guess I feel like every time I've addressed it, you guys say, well, we all care about this, but nothing's been done. I mean, I've now lived right in this section for 2 years, and I've tried to address it, and you guys say, well, we all care about
Yeah.
this.
Wait,
but
but nothing,
No, but-
something has
Okay,
been
let's-
done.
let's not-
32nd
wait.
Street has been done, right? The street before
Yeah.
your house.
No, I guess I'm just, but I'm saying
Okay.
like every,
With
like,
the sidewalk.
but, right, definitely.
So,
But
something
you
is-
say like,
that
oh,
took a
you're,
year.
but you say like, I mean, I feel like when I've come here and said, we really need to do something, you say, well, we all want to do something. So let's try and do something together. The more people who want to do something together, the better we can get something
and
done.
that's what I'm saying.
Thanks.
I'm hoping
So
that
I guess what I'm doing is thanking
we're
you for
going to
that.
try to create a structure to help harness some
Thank
of
you
that
so
and move it
much.
forward.
Thank you so much.
Where's that on the agenda?
At the bottom.
At the bottom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I definitely see the schools,
Thank you
both
very
Birch
much.
and Hearst as well. We've got a strong interest in that,
Hearst has
so
got a problem,
we'll
too.
definitely hit that at the end. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming
We'd like
out.
to help
Thank
on all
Great.
school
All
fronts.
schools.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely a common denominator.
I just want to say, I live on Davenport, and for 25 years, and the traffic has gotten much, much worse coming up from the park to get to the schools. Brandywine has the same problem. We have massive potholes in those streets, and we're trying to get those streets paved. I've tried for 3 years, and actually, at this point, might as well leave the potholes, because that slows them down a little bit. So-
32nd Street, please don't repave our street, because I want to slow them down. Please.
Okay, well, that's
Okay.
one of,
Let's keep going.
Yeah, sorry. And I'm only here in that there's strength in numbers. So I'm Marcia Piercy, and I live on 30th Street, and have for 12 years. And it's this, I mean, there are mornings when I'm trying to pull out where I'm waiting for them to whip by at 50 miles an hour. And it's so interesting that they don't care that people live there. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Committee's a great idea. Potholes usually are taken care of. I mean, I think you guys have done a great job, but this is, our neighborhood is a cross through, and that's for the taxes we pay. And I love the idea of saying during certain hours, you cannot come through here unless you have a parking sticker.
Well, and I'll just toss in again, because I've got a vested interest in this also, just at Hearst Elementary. But again, I mentioned the Safe Track efforts, and the University of Maryland is looking into what the safe traffic has caused in terms of congestion, but what are some appropriate mitigation measures, whether it's carpooling, whether it's taking a bike, teleworking, et cetera. So I know this is a more localized issue, but it falls under a broader concern about traffic management. And I just want to thank the family in the back, especially big folks as well, because it's long overdue. As a cyclist, I'm angered by it, and as a resident, I'm angered by it. So I'm all in. When we talk about the committee, hope you guys can support it. It takes a lot of people and power through numbers. So thank you.
So you can chair the committee.
Happy to.
Teresa, I assume you have a list?
Good evening, everybody. It's Teresa with Van Ness Main Street. And that, I think you know how to spell my name by now. But I wanted to give a few announcements. The UDC Farmers Market has kicked off, and starting in the middle of July through September, Van Ness Main Street will be augmenting the market with performers and maybe some guest chefs. So we hope everyone will come to the market, because we want it to be more of a community gathering place and support our local farmers as well. But it's a place for us to come and be. So you'll see some changes at the market starting in the middle of July. The Maker Faire, for those of you who did not get a chance to see it, it was a beautiful event, and our businesses did extraordinarily well. We had, I think, almost over 2,000 people in and out of Van Ness, and I talked with most of the merchants, and Potbelly ran out of roast beef, and Starbucks had lines out the door. So we were really excited about it. It was a really beautiful event. If you didn't get a chance to go, there's pictures on our Van Ness Facebook page. So it's basically Facebook/Van Ness Main Street. Take a look at that. We post stuff every day on that page. We also, as Mary Beth said, have been working with the Clean Team, and hopefully we'll have some nice landscaping for Van Ness. If you saw tonight after the rain, a lot of what was there is now in the sidewalks. We had a lot of water, but hopefully our Clean Team will take care of that. We hired a restaurant consultant who will be helping our restaurants in the next few months, kind of learn a little bit about how they can do things a little bit differently, or ways that they would like to have some help. They've asked for this, so we're excited about that. We're doing a real estate study and also a parking study.
I'm sorry, I'm not following. Helping the restaurants do what?
Basically, the restaurants have asked, how can we improve our services? How can we get more people in the door?
Okay.
So it's about design. It's also about their service, and most of them are very excited about it. So it's not about giving criticism at all. It's about giving support and direction. We do have a real estate consulting firm that's looking at our parking and doing a real estate study, so that should be coming out soon. We also have office space, and I want to publicly thank UDC. We are right next to Acacia Bistro in the window. There used to be plants there, but I'm there now. And so stop by. We're really excited to be on the street. And that whole Building 52 eventually, as you know, will be redeveloped. And so it'll be exciting to be part of that. And we also have been working with our food trucks. We like them. But we've been trying to get them to activate our plaza, which is in front of the vacant, awful space there at the corner of Wyndham and Connecticut Avenue. So they've been very generous, and they've all moved over to the other side of the street, and we're going to be trying to make that more of a fun place for our people who are getting food in the daytime. And we'll also be working with the commissioner, talking to some of the restaurants who have feel that they've been impeded by the food trucks. So we're trying to have a balance of a fine line. And finally, we have our next, we do this every month, Jazz at Vienna event. I'm going to pass these around. This one is going to be the 30th of June at Bread First, but we'll be moving them around to different restaurants to get people in the door, especially on nights that are a little slow. This particular jazz group is going to be very family friendly, so we hope we get lots of people out for it. And I think that's all, right? So thanks, everybody, and come by and see us in our office space and check us out on Facebook.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other items for the open forum? Anything else from the community? Okay, if not, then we're going to move on to the next item, grant application from Iona Senior Services. Denise?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Diane Greenspun with Iona Senior Services. I'm also a 30-year owner and resident of F. So as a citizen, I appreciate the opportunity to learn. My organization, Iona Senior Services, was founded in 1975 right here in Ward 3 in Tinleytown. And since our founding, we have helped thousands and thousands of people with the challenges and opportunities of aging, and family caregivers as well. And we're located at 4125 Albemarle Street, and you are all welcome to come and see what's going on there. And we are a thriving community center, but more importantly, we're taking care of people who are going through some pretty serious challenges and trying to support family caregivers. One of the things we've done since 1975 as a nonprofit is address the problem of hunger, isolation, and people living at serious risk of malnutrition. And we don't think of that in our beautiful Ward 3, but it's sadly very real. So the grant application I'm here about today is because we have several hundred clients in Ward 3 who receive 50,000 home-delivered meals a year. We also have a congregate meal site at St. Albans. We also provide nutritional supplements like an Ensure and Boost to some very frail, isolated neighbors right here in Ward 3. So we have a part-time nutrition coordinator who's wonderful, and she was just scanning the web a few months ago looking for new resources, and she found that a fine organization called DC Greens had created for all 8 wards of the city a pamphlet called Where to Find Food. So it says where to find food. That's pretty straightforward name. Where to find food, for example, in Ward 4. But when she looked closely, there was no where to find food in Ward 3. There was where to find food in Ward 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And when she called to say, where's the Ward 3 one, she was told there's no hunger in Ward 3. You should have heard us back at the office, but I don't know you well enough to say what we were saying. But the fact is, the sad fact is that there, of course, is hunger in Ward 3. There's 1,180 children right now attending schools right around us who are receiving free reduced cost lunch, which means 1,180 families, in addition to the thousands of older people we serve every year. So the fact is, friends, there is hunger in Ward 3 and there is malnutrition. And what Iona wants to do, because this document was not in our budget, is to create one for Ward 3. And when I say create one, we already have the information we need about where people would find food. And for example, it's emergency groceries, it's stores that accept food stamps and vouchers, it's farmers markets that will share their bounty, it's confidential free helpline numbers for people to call in confidence for advice on how to enroll for benefits and how to get support and services. So we already have all the information. We literally need to make it. DC Greens owns this design, and they're going to charge us the reduced rate of $900 for their designer to make it using our Ward 3 information. So we're ready to go. So we have priced out the print, and the design is $1,300. So we are looking for 4 funders who will provide $325 to make it happen. We haven't done the work and we haven't ordered the print or anything yet. We just got a print a bid from a print shop because we know we can't expend the money and then ask for it. We understand that. So once we get the money, we will go ahead and make this for our neighbors here in Ward 3, and we're starting with 1,000, and it will go to churches and synagogues and food banks and shelters and other places where people need very urgently this information. The meals, I'm here to tell you, the meals that Iona's volunteers deliver 52 weeks a year go to private homes up and down Connecticut Avenue, Wisconsin Avenue, my building, Van Ness East. We have many clients in condos and co-ops and nice rental apartments who, for a variety of very serious factors, desperately need food and nutrition. So we hope that you will approve the $325 grant and allow us to move ahead with the printing.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So, the process is that you present it to us tonight, and then we're going to refer it to our grants committee, go through the details, and we'll ask any questions that we have for clarification, and then bring it up for a vote at our next meeting in July.
That's great. We appreciate that very much.
So in the meantime, though, does anybody have any specific questions you want to ask right now?
Yeah. Someone else? I just have a question. I'm looking at page 4, and I'm just looking at the numbers that are there. The cost of designing, printing, shipping to Iona would be $1,000.
$1,300?
It says 1,000. Is that a typo?
Well, I wrote it, so I apologize. It is $1,300. It's $900 for a designer. It's $350 to print, and the print shop wants $50 to deliver. So I apologize. Yes, the total cost is, I'm going to hate myself. The total cost for this first project is in fact $1,300. So we're looking for 4 grantors to each provide $325 to get us for this first run.
All 4 of those ANCs?
Yes, our first pass. We also have individual donors who, over the year, are open to considering. We had somebody last year buy us a second refrigerator. So we are fortunate that we have people we can turn to, but we haven't turned to them yet because we're always turning to them. So we decided that, we would seek funding. We have a history of generous support from the ANCs, and we feel like because it directly helps our neighbors right here in Ward 3, that it might be of interest to the commissioners. So yeah, we did apply to 4. Yes.
So once you have this design, will you own the design so you can get it?
No.
No.
That's why we have a lot of graphic designers. We have in-house graphic design talent, But DC Greens, this is theirs. So they consider the $900 fee to be a reduction of what it normally would be. So all we could say at that point was thank you, that it's only $900. So it will be $900. We want to be consistent with this design. We want this to be, this is a known product, and everybody in Ward 3 is getting what the other wards are. So it's going to be $900.
I guess my question is, if you wanted to do a second run of printing, would you have to pay an additional fee to DC Greens?
No.
Okay.
No. We're just going to pay the designer the $900. We will have this, and we'll make as many copies as we need.
Will
If
you
we
be
do
getting
get more-
a digital copy of that also?
Pardon?
Would you be getting a digital copy of that we
Yes.
might be able to put on our website for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have a website, and we try to put everything up on our website and share it as many places as possible. We do have a Facebook page and social media, but in this particular case, a lot of the people we serve don't have access to a computer, unfortunately. So, but we do. You're right. We do have all our stuff is posted as it's live. It's searchable. So.
Great.
And once you have an electronic version, are you able to, I'm sorry if I jumped ahead of somebody there, but once you have an electronic version, are you able to amend it without?
Yes.
Okay, just got updated. Okay.
Because,
Sorry.
there are more, each ward is different in how many providers there are. So if we learn about a store that has decided to accept food stamps, we need to put it on there. Someplace people can get emergency groceries, we want to put it on there. So yeah, we have some in-house graphic design ability and of our own to amend this, and we are going to do it, even if we're just going to do it anyway because we can. But so we appreciate that. Yes.
I was just wondering how DC Greens disseminates this now. Is it just available online for the other wards, or are they printing copies at their own?
They made it.
To them?
Yes, they made it. They're a nonprofit, and they're very fine. We work with them on farmers markets and food distribution, and that's why we were so surprised to see that they didn't make one for us. Even if they wanted to make more for Ward 8 and fewer for Ward 3, that's their choice, but they made 0 for us.
But they print it. Do
Yes.
they print? They actually print copies for all the other wards.
Not
and
us.
even if you've done all the work to find the information, you're paying them to do the design, and they're not willing to spend any of their resources for Ward 3 just because they don't want to do it for Ward 3. That's amazing and kind of troubling, actually.
Do they receive money from the city?
Pardon?
Is DC Greens? I guess
I don't
I'm sorry.
know.
You're not okay.
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing is that they went out and they got funding for this from different sources. When I have looked at this happens to be Ward 4 in my hand right now.
Yeah.
And there are credits. USDA offered a grant. This one doesn't have any other. So maybe another ward that they got some USDA funding, or maybe a ward like Ward 7 or 8 that has other sources of funding. But and we will proudly acknowledge if an ANC chooses to support us, depending on obviously your parameters for acknowledgement. We're of course very proud to put anybody on it because we're going to print it. But yeah, they didn't think there's a hunger problem, and we deliver 50,000 meals a year, and that's the tip of the iceberg. So we have a lot of people in great need right here. So if anybody wants to volunteer, that's my plug. We are always welcome to have food volunteers at any time. So.
Sally, you have something?
Yeah, well, thank you for coming, number one. On page 2, and
Can I
this
make
is
another boo-boo?
This is this technical thing.
Yes.
Maybe I have a bad memory, but I don't remember giving Iona $10,000 on May the 19th this year.
Not this year.
Yeah.
It says 2016.
It says 2016. No.
That I know I definitely didn't write. We have had support
2013
from.
maybe?
No, I asked that question and I got an answer. I just don't remember
you
what
did?
it is.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I
'cause I
apologize,
don't
and I
remember
could
this
kind of wing it and tell you it was
Yeah.
about 2010, but I'm
I
not
was gonna
confident I'm
say,
100%
maybe
correct. I know what that
2010.
was. I'm pretty sure that was Kappa, a grant in support of the work that Marlene Berlin and
That's
others
what
were
it was.
doing.
Yeah.
That was a major long-term initiative of Iona, and we did get generous support from some of the ANCs for that research. It was to determine pedestrian safety across Ward 3.
Right.
It was definitely not 16, I assure you.
No, it says, Diane wrote back, in June 2010, ANC 3F provided a grant of $10,000 in
Yes.
support of the pedestrian action
2010,
initiative.
Right.
right.
That would be about 2010.
Right.
Yeah, that was before.
2011, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, we do have a history and we appreciate that. And, we sometimes go back to you for other things. It's been a while. So we thought that because we do deliver a lot of meals right here in F, in addition to across Ward 3, that we would ask for the support. And because we decided to split it up, we didn't want to ask anybody for $1,300. If anybody can just come up with the $325 and they have room in their budget and they approve, that would be great. And that'll get us there for right now.
Mary Beth, do you have something?
Sally got my question, and I just wanted to thank you. You all do wonderful work.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
for the great work you do.
Thank you.
David?
Yes.
Wait a second. David? do you
I'm
have something else?
fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you have to?
Andrea, you
did
have
Do we need to ask them to send us another copy of this application with these
We'll-
2 numerical errors corrected, or no?
We'll take
I'm
care of that
happy
for
to.
the committee.
Okay.
Right now, this is just the presentation, but we'll clarify all that before it comes to a vote
Yeah, I
next
can.
month.
Okay. I apologize for that. I'm the one who wrote it, so I feel doubly bad.
You do say you were lower paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, she does, yeah.
But that's why we don't approve it the day it's at the same meeting at which it's
And I
presented.
appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. I'll fall on my sword about those errors, but it's easy for us to check and confirm any questions that you have. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on. Now we're going to go to the zoning application for renew the use of the Zips parking lot, the accessory parking lot. So Kate.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Kate Olson, representing the applicant in this case.
Sorry, what's your name?
Kate Olson, Olson.
So actually, before you start, let me just set the stage here. What I have and what I've circulated to the other commissioners is a resolution supporting the BZA application for an accessory parking lot at the rear of 4418 to 4420 Connecticut Avenue, which is the Zips parking lot. Subject to the conditions that we have negotiated back and forth. So there are 11 conditions that we've circulated, that are circulated to everyone here. So first I'm going to say, do the commissioners have any comments on the conditions? And for the people in the audience, the conditions are out there on the table if you're interested.
I know we had suggested decreasing the time from 3, and it's bumped back up to 10. What was it previously, the last time an agreement was made? Was it 10? Or was it?
No.
It was 10.
Yes,
No,
the
the
last
last one was 10. Before that, it was
5 or 7.
I believe it was,
Yeah,
10 years ago, it was bumped up to 10.
10.
Okay.
right.
But before that, they were shorter
I'm
duration.
wondering if, just for a little more context, if she'd like to make a minute or two overview before we start asking questions. I'm happy to just start asking questions, but it might be helpful for her to give
An overview
of what's transpired since the last time she came, and why are these the conditions we've fallen upon. I mean, I think we could go through and ask a lot of questions, but it's up to you. I mean,
Sure.
That's
I mean, I
fine.
can,
Are
I
there a lot
can,
of questions though? Because I did circulate these. We've gone back and forth on these, so I'm interested. If there are a lot of questions, I'd like to get to the questions and then let Kate address them.
I was surprised to see the 10 years.
Me too.
Because that was not my understanding of what we discussed.
We've had numerous emails from 4 of us that do not agree with the 10-year. And why don't agree with it? Because of development coming,
Right.
short-term, long-term, trying to make a parcel, an inter-parcel with everyone. It's more consistent with the duration of the other surrounding. Yes, there are 5 and 3 year.
no, I provided Commissioner Nugent some background as to the other parking lots. The only other 3-year is Burger King.
Burger King is 3 years.
Correct.
And Bread First, the one behind Bread First, is 7.
Correct.
None of them are 10.
But this
None.
one previously, I thought you meant that all of them were 3 years, because I keep hearing that.
No. They're much shorter than 10 years. We weren't on the commission 10 years ago.
Right. We had actually
So-
started off asking for a permanent renewal,
Right.
having not known that there were any
We're
issues.
very aware of that.
Right. So as a result of hearing these issues for the first time, we had said that we were comfortable doing the same as the renewal was before, which was the 10 years. And there was, I mean, if we want to get into the other conditions that Commissioner Nugent actually added, there's a revision that, for instance, the applicant will submit a summary each year, that will keep working with the community on trying to better and we're actually, since we've met, the property manager has met with Teresa Cameron at Van Ness Main Street. I've been in discussion with DDOT. The applicant has changed trash pickup contracts. So we have been doing some stuff. If you want me to elaborate on these, or if you want to just continue asking questions.
Well,
I've been reading what.
Let me explain my thinking on this, too. I certainly don't support permanent, simply because I think it makes sense to have a mechanism to come back to the community on a regular basis. Now, what the applicant has agreed to do is to come back to us on an annual basis to allow us to certify that they continue to meet these conditions, and has also agreed to continue having the conversations that we asked them to have with us about fixing what's wrong with the parking lots back there. And realistically, I don't believe that development, if there's going to be development in that whole parcel, I don't believe that it's going to be constrained by a zoning exception for an accessory parking lot for 19 parking
No,
spaces.
hopefully it will go to a commercial use and not a
Exactly.
R1B.
So I don't see a concern.
So I agree with that.
I don't see a concern with saying, these are the conditions, this is what we want to see for as long as this is still a parking lot back there. This is what we want to see in that parking lot. If it stops being a parking lot, if it gets developed into something else, then this is off the table anyway. So I'm not as concerned about whether it's 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years, because I don't think we're going to need to keep going back and renegotiating the conditions.
So as they come in every year with a report back to the ANC, there's a sense that there'll be reasonable further progress. What is that sense? How do we evaluate that?
I mean,
Right.
how do we enforce it?
And what
Because
kind
we
of
have no
enforcement
reaction,
mechanism do you
no
have?
action to go back to the BZA. That's
Well-
that's part of the problem by
Sure, if they don't-
given a 10-year.
If they're not in compliance with the conditions, that's the whole point of having conditions. If they're not in compliance with the conditions, then they're not in compliance with their exception.
But for example, and I appreciate the work you've done on this, and I think we're on the right path. I'm just wondering, as Van Ness Main Street or Teresa keeps working with the neighboring property owners and they try to develop a more comprehensive plan for that area as long as it remains a parking lot. Well, what does that mean? How do we, not to hold anybody's feet to the fire, but how do we make sure that progress is being made there on a timely basis? And if somebody says, well, it's going to take 3 years, and another person says, I think you can do it in 1.
Or
And-
they may say, we can't do it because they won't come to an agreement or won't do a design that links the lots together. I mean, that's the
all,
risk we
That's
take.
right, but are you suggesting we should put as a condition for this accessory parking lot that they have to have a solution back there in place? We don't have that solution yet.
We
and
don't
they-
have a solution,
and they
but I
need-
think there needs
they
to
need
be, I
something
think
now.
some of us, we need to have a way to make that happen. And it will take time to make that happen.
Yes.
It takes money to make that happen.
So that's what we tried to do by
So-
including a condition calling on continuing to have those conversations. Because we asked to have that meeting, and a meeting couldn't even be scheduled in the last month. We couldn't even get people to sit down in time. So,
You're talking about the people that own the lots.
right.
Okay.
Right. When we had this discussion last month, we said, let's spend the next 30 days trying to figure out what a good solution would be, and we couldn't even have a single meeting. So,
Well,
But that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if all of those if they get 10 years, everybody else is going to want 10 years. And then we have zero control, zero enforcement mechanism. The only reason that we're here talking about this, the only reason we have got them at the table now is because they need the BZA renewed.
it's just like us.
So 10 years is, kiss it goodbye.
And a year from now, if they haven't continued working with the ANC and the neighboring property owners to develop and implement a comprehensive parking lot plan that will enhance the safety, traffic flow, and landscaping of the several parking lots in the area, they'll be out of compliance, right? So that's better. They're not going to come back in 3 years. They're going to come back in 1 year and tell us they've continued to do this.
Okay, but they can say they've continued to do it, but we're not asking them to show us a plan or anything. I think we need something hard line, just to say continue working.
Okay.
Continue working is me calling you up and saying, can we meet? No, can't meet this month. Oh, can't meet next month, but you've tried, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, I mean, I think
Okay,
we
so-
all know how committees go, and we know it can just keep snowballing and snowballing. But I think we've got to have some hard line objectives.
Do you have one to suggest?
Well, maybe we can come up and say.
No, we've had a month to come up with hardline objectives, and we haven't come up with any of them. That's what I'm saying. We knew that this was coming up. We had a month to come up with hardline objectives. So the best we can do, in my view, is say the applicant agrees to come back to us, to continue working with us, and we will review progress on an annual basis. Not every 10 years, not even every 3 years, but on an annual basis. And we'll agree to continue working on it.
I think the annual basis review is an excellent idea, but I think 10 years is too long.
I think that this clause or condition number 11 is great. I think it's going to be hard to really qualitatively argue that it's being met or not. I apologize for not getting you better language. I think it's on the right track. It's probably fine coupled with the 1-year reporting requirement. I think we won't know it until we see it in terms of how they're doing in terms of compliance. So maybe that's where the pushback is coming from on the 10 years. So you keep condition 11, but maybe make condition 1 a shorter period of time, and then look to extend it to 10 years if we're really getting comfortable on condition 11. So maybe initially say 2 or 3 years. If that's not going to foul up their planning and their kind of long range, whatever they're doing, just make it a shorter period of time, and the next ANC can revisit it to make sure that 11's being met. But that's an idea.
Yeah. And could you take a step back out of the process? Because I know there's expenses related to your client and this and going on. But is there a way to say, hey, is there a way to get rid of some of those expenses and say in 3 or 5 or whatever time period where you say, hey, we find them in compliance, we see it's going on, we don't need to take as close a look as we did this time? Or is it related to actually going to, is the expense coming from enlisting your services or going to the city and saying, I need you to review this? Is there a way to manage our need to guide this parking lot in a way that we see in the future of this area being developed, while also recognizing that your client has expenses and not unduly burning them with a second review process midway through the product,
Well, I think, and I think I understand your question, but there are also things that are tied to certain timeframes. So, for instance, the applicant's willing to restripe and do a lot of those immediate concerns, address those immediately. But things like the permeable surface, we're asking for 7 years. So to have it, the order be less than that would be.
I mean, I don't know.
So
In
there's the
5 years,
expense
we would
and-
say no, you don't qualify since you haven't done the impervious. I think we'd understand, or I guess I can't speak for a future ANC, but is there a way to say in 3 years you come up, during that annual review process, and we're like, you're in compliance, you've been working with us, the burdensome process of the BZA review at this point is not like we're fine checking that off, or is it?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that it will expire in 3 years, and then they'll have to pay the $2,000 to redo it.
And that's a
Even if it's-
$2,000 fee to the city.
That's what I saw in the application that you'd paid.
I can't recall.
So
It's a cost per space, parking space. So it would vary depending on.
10 years ago. The owner did it 10 years ago.
And that comes
Correct?
every time it's reviewed.
Right.
Okay.
I don't.
Then you got to
Yes.
amortize that over 10 years. And wait a minute, I want to say
You know, I
something to what
understand
you
where you're
said
coming from.
about
I just, the whole annual review thing is nice and everything, but I don't,
Right,
if
I
we
don't
say
think
you're
it's
out of compliance and they say we are in compliance, where does it go after that?
We file a
We
complaint.
file a complaint with BZA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we
I
can.
mean, if,
And what happens? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, if we.
do they even have a procedural mechanism?
Well,
to
they must, if
accommodate that?
they build a building on the.
But you don't know that, and then you're
Yeah.
building that into this agreement?
No, well, certainly, if they build a building on the accessory parking lot, they'll be out of compliance with the zoning, and there will be repercussions. That's the point.
Well, good option is to
I mean-
rezone
It's the
the
same-
land to
it's the same
commercial.
thing- it's the
This
same
lot
thing-
is a mess. It is a total mess, and we're going to extend it to 10 years?
No, what
I
we're
mean, that
doing
makes
is.
no sense to me.
No, we're not. We're building in a mechanism for us to work collaboratively with the owner to fix it. We're not extending the
With
mess
no
for 10 years.
But it's no,
We have 3
I
years
have
with
no
Burger.
confidence
We
in
have
an enforcement
we have 3 year a 3-year plan with Burger King, and it's no better than it was 2 years ago.
the barrels got moved.
The barrels got.
The barrels are
Okay.
gone.
No, but seriously,
Right,
seriously,
right,
does
folk.
does
I
the
mean-
fact that we have 3 years with Burger King mean that the Burger King problems are fixed? No, it's the.
But it means we can come back to them and say, you haven't fixed these problems, and they're still there.
Every 3 years?
Yeah.
Why not every year? Why aren't we doing it every year? The point is we're not engaging on
Okay,
that.
that's true.
So Maliki, I agree that the every year is a great way to engage. We want to establish a working relationship with this owner and ideally the other parking lot owners. And I think that 1 year check-in is great. I think this condition 11 is a tough one. I think it's nice that they check in and that there's some reasonable progress. But I think several of the commissioners have raised, if we do raise if we contest this or raise an issue or complaint, I'm not sure how a reviewing board is going to review this. And you know, what's the weight of evidence required or the burden on them to show it? We tried calling these meetings, the other property owners are not cooperative, then where does that leave us? So I sort of see this condition 1 rather than 10 years if it's not overly burdensome and overly costly to sort of shorten that just to contain some additional leverage or hook. I mean, I don't want to be prescriptive in condition 11, but I think the time constraint is a reasonable way of making sure progress is done there. But I'm sorry.
Maliki, is BCA going to view them out of compliance if they don't meet our additional conditions?
Yeah, these are the conditions. Yeah, that's the way it's worded in the.
But is,
Well, we
does-
have to submit this to
Right, but
the
is BZA gonna
so they can come
recognize-
back.
Yes, they will grant approval subject to compliance with the conditions.
Right. So, for an example, on Burger King, if you look at their BZA order, our ANC asked for pervious pavement, and the BZA did not put it in. So, I mean, that's a perfect example that not everything we ask for gets moved to the order. Just like in a settlement agreement, not everything in a settlement agreement.
Okay.
Could we put something in there then, just add some little, I'm trying to look for sort of middle ground. Leave it 10 years with BZA, but put something in that says that the ANC needs to go back. They need to get approval from us. There's no cost, there's no expenditure, but they need to get approval from us every 3 years, and if they don't, then they won't be in compliance, something like that. It's 10 years for BZA, so they don't have to incur the expense of the application and whatever, but we get to see it, not once a year with the conditions and stuff, but we
We
get
don't
to see
have
it.
that authority.
No, I don't think we can.
We don't
do
have that
anything
authority.
with the
I
payment.
think you're
You
usurping
can't
BZA
create
at that
No.
point.
authority like that.
To say that they have to come back in with
No,
us, and
that's
if
why
they
you
don't,
would
they're not
limit
in
it to
compliance.
3 years.
Right, that's why you're limited.
Okay.
Okay.
To 3, 5, or 7, or whatever.
While we ponder that, can I raise a different question
Sure.
in condition 3? And maybe this is lawyering it, but the second sentence there, the existing impervious surface will be replaced by pervious material at the first opportunity. And then it says comma, but no later than 7 years. I don't know how the but no later than 7 years plays with the first opportunity. I mean, if they get an opportunity and they don't take it, but then they take the next one within 7 years, do they meet this condition? I would like to see them, the first opportunity they have, whenever they're repaving anything, that's when they put the pervious in. And then, so I would do a full stop after the first opportunity, period. Never, regardless, all services shall be impervious.
But what if they don't repave
Yeah, but
for
what
10
if
years?
they don't do it? I think you gotta have a target deadline, just
Well,
like
I
we
thought
were
the
talking
I
about.
thought
I
the
think
target
David's
deadline
language
was
does
7
that.
years from the date of the order. Isn't that what the last part of
Weren't
that
you just
says?
suggesting striking that?
No, not striking. He says hard stop.
Hard stop.
And it would basically begin if no opportunity should arise.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Right.
then,
Thank you, Pat.
and also the
Hi, I'm Joe Borgia, Borgia Management. We represent the ownership. Let me try to clarify some things because it's getting confused. What the intent was, to your point, is that we're going to reseal and stripe the parking lot now, this summer. It needs it. But the parking lot does not need to be replaced. The asphalt is in good condition. So the point was, we don't want to have to go in and tear out a good parking lot. It's a very expensive proposition to put permeable pavers. It takes a lot of time, which is going to adversely impact especially Zips dry cleaners because, as we know, that's why we're here. If he doesn't have the parking, he doesn't survive. So we will stripe, as we said in here, and seal the parking lot and fix any signage that's damaged. I looked at it. Signs look fine to me, but maybe there's some that need to be cleaned up. We'll do that now. Then we're going to look at budgeting to put the permeable pavers in that 7-year period. That's one item. Two, we have a landscaping contract that's been in place for 15 years since I've been involved with the property. That landscaping contract, just like this, whatever this ultimately becomes, gets recorded. It's a document of record. It's not something that's between you and I. It's the city's document. Anybody can pull it and say, hey, do you have a landscaping contract? Are you maintaining it? What's your trash contract? Those things, we provide that, and we would provide it to you now because we have it. And we'll continue to have that. So we will do those things. As Sally said, we went ahead and changed out the trash compactor, the supplier, the servicer, because they weren't doing a real good job. We talked to the tenants. We talked to Zips. We're open to hear from you all if there's some problem with the parking lot. I mean, that we can control, okay? And the point of the neighbors, as you heard here tonight, we did reach out to them. We've reached out to them numerous times, and it falls on a deaf ear. So I cannot be penalized because my neighbor, who I have no control over, won't respond to us, okay? We do have a good relationship with the Days Inn, and we do not have a good relationship with the car wash, okay? But we're there at any time, any day of the week to meet with these people, to meet with you all, and come up with a plan. But we can't do it by ourselves. I mean, we don't have any control over that. Teresa has tried to reach out to DDOT to do this traffic study. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. We did, but we have gotten no confirmation with your support saying that you all were supporting us to do a traffic study. We're open to a traffic study. We'll listen to them. We'll give them our feedback. So we are here to cooperate with you. And the last point I want to make, or 2 points, the fence that's come up. The question is that the guardrail fence that's between us and Burger King, it's not our fence, it's Burger King's. We checked the plat, we looked at it, it's not ours. So I can't do anything with that green space that they were speaking, it's not our property, it is theirs. And lastly, the issue of, what was my last, to your point about the landscaping, the trash removal, there was one other item that I wanted to mention to you. I don't know. Dropped out.
The mural.
Well, we did. We did touch base. My property manager is out of town with some family members tonight. Couldn't be here. She did reach out to them and said we're open to doing something on the side of the wall. We have absolutely no problem with doing something. They talked about it and it's going to be discussed, but I don't have any definitive. But it needs to get painted. And so if a mural if they would be willing to do a mural, it's their wall, so I can't force them to do it, but we would have no opposition to a mural at all. That would be fine. Okay? Any questions?
Here's what I propose. Since this is our resolution, I propose that we amend condition 1 to say 5 years, and we make the adjustment that David just suggested to condition 3, the full stop, and then if no opportunity should arise.
Well, I don't want to edit. Was that all you were? On condition 3, it sounds like, and I have no problem with it, they're sealing and repainting the stripes this summer. That's arguably their first opportunity, but I don't think that's what we read here.
Not what we know.
So, if you want to, I don't know how you accommodate that, but I'm sympathetic to that and support your ability to do that this summer. You don't want to rip up otherwise good pavement. So if we can somehow reflect that any time that you're
First opportunity for repaving.
right, right, yeah. Does that work for you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I lost my train of thought here. On this 5 years in condition 1, I don't know what the other agreements are with the other property owners or other parking lot owners, but it would be nice to line them all up so that this one expires in 5 years, Burger King expires in 5, Bread First, so they're all on the same track and they're all equally incentivized. You got to play ball here. You got to work with each other. We're not going to renew any of these. 5 years from now, you're all up. You better come and have something with the ANC and with.
That's a great idea.
I know that Burger King was last renewed in 2014, and that was for 3 years. So that would just give us a 1 year.
Yeah.
And
And 1 year. And I think
Bread First is
coming
7
up
years.
2020?
That would have been in 14 as well.
2020, I think.
Bread First?
Bread First would have
Yeah,
been in
because
14.
they also
They have a set
Yeah,
of-
well, 2013 was the,
is
was the last time they were renewed.
Pavement is 2020. They have to have the impervious pavement.
Correct.
And so we
Impervious
could give them a
pavement, sorry.
1-year extension.
So I don't know.
So we
That's
could-
gonna be- I don't know if we can line them up. That's a great idea.
Well, what if we
If we set
lined
them
up
as the-
pervious pavement to match? If we couldn't get the whole thing to line up, what
No,
if we
but-
lined up the pervious pavement?
How do we do that? Because we have no impervious pavement in the Burger King lot. There's none. They didn't do it when we asked them to do it. All we've got is Bread First, which
is 2020.
And when does
Bread
Bread First expire?
2016, so we could say
2020.
4 years instead.
Okay, so we need to.
So we say
either get
4
there
years
or
here, and
past
that lines us up with Bread First, and then when Burger King
I
comes
think
up.
it's 2020.
Okay.
I know that's what the.
So
paving
let's do
is.
that. We'll say 4 years, which takes us to 2020, which lines us up with Bread First, and when Burger King comes up, we'll see about
Make theirs in
lining them.
2020.
With one-
Are there any others?
Pervious pavement.
With the idea is the target year is 2020.
Yeah.
Three back in.
Or
Just the
let's
three.
just
But
identify
then,
it.
I
Is
mean,
that
for
right?
condition
Kate,
3, would
isn't
it
it
make sense to
2020
have
for,
7 years here?
I know that it
I
was
just didn't look at-
20.
No, first opportunity,
So
but
it
no
was
later than 2020.
Last approved
So then we're only
2013
giving them
for
4
7
years.
years.
So that would
Change
be
as well.
2020.
Oh, that's true.
So Bread
Right,
First
okay.
also has is Bread First required to do the pavement?
Yes, by
Yes,
2020.
2020. So that's
When
what we
their
were saying,
BZ
we could
order comes
align
back
it.
up.
Because they're gonna.
I'm positive of
I mean,
that.
I assume when you repave the parking lot, there are synergies or,
Right.
financial cost savings or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, you
if
could
you
maybe
do
get a
it.
Well,
discount.
how often would one normally repave a lot? So for instance, what would you anticipate to be the next need for repaving?
Asphalt has a certain
I'm
life.
going to ask
Yeah, it
the
has a-
property
a
manager to
life.
come up again.
Can I ask you for your name? I'm sorry.
Joe Borger with Borger Management.
Thank you.
How often do you repave? It really has to do with your maintenance. If you don't seal the lot on about a 3 to 4 year cycle, your lot's not going to last 10 years. If you seal it like this one, this lot was repaved when we did this last 10 year. So that parking lot is almost 10 years old.
So it's going to be due for repaving?
No, it's
isn't
not.
it?
I mean, we had the asphalt company look at it. It's scheduled to, it's been sealed every 3 to 4 years since we've done it. So we seal it and tape. If you don't, it deteriorates. But if you go look at the lot, I mean, it's not, there's no potholes, there's no alligating and cracking like you see on your streets in your neighborhood. So the point is, it's expensive. We'd like to seal it, then go ahead and put the permeable pavers in.
Within 7 years.
Yeah, because there needs to be a certain amount of time to amortize that cost over. It's a very, the paving is a lot cheaper than putting down permeable pavers, even though there's a little bit of money available for it.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's say
let's say at the first opportunity might be when Brett first does it, because it might be, the best opportunity might be to do it all at once. But that would be within 4 years, not 7 years. But we can say first opportunity, but no later than 7 years, which would be 2023.
Then we lose the opportunity to sync them up.
All right.
It's a true opportunity.
Is Mr. Klein here?
No,
No.
no. He is in poor health, and he lives in South Virginia, and I don't actually even expect him to come to the BZA hearing.
So what are you proposing, Melky?
So, I'm going to propose approval shall be for 4 years, subject to remaining in compliance. Full paving material at the first opportunity for repaving, full stop. If no opportunity should arise, David, what was the language you were thinking there?
Well, if no opportunity shall arise, then, arguably it was then no later than 7 years, but now these are two different issues we're playing with, but either we keep 7 years or we try to align it with the other owners, but I don't know if that necessarily makes sense. I mean, if these guys have to amortize their costs and their other considerations, I personally think that might be unfair. I think what we're trying to do is keep some type of hook on all these guys that their
And I actually-
BZA permit expires, so they all come in. At the
I
same
wasn't
time.
even able to find a BZA order for the car wash other than just the construction of the garage there, which I thought was odd. So there's actually no hook at all for the car wash to keep coming in that I know of, which is too bad because I have heard that the car wash is one of the issues.
Okay. So I'm going to take as a friendly amendment from whoever wishes to offer it, approval for 4 years, but then repaving within 7. And if somebody would like to offer an amendment to change the 7, we'll vote on that.
I
Change
just
the
wonder if
7 to
they'll
something
approve,
else.
if BZA is going to let us include something like that, like a requirement that extends beyond the duration of the contract to begin with. Will they even let us do that?
Right, why not just line it up?
Line it up. Well, we did that with Brett first. Brett first, we lined them both up.
Well, no, I understand why we don't want to line it up
Because-
because it would be perhaps unfair to the business to have, given the cost of doing it, to give them just 4 years.
But there are
versus-
incentives out there now. There's the River Smart Communities that you can apply for.
It's only $1,250.
We did look into that.
It's inconsequential to the
That's
cost.
not what she told
I mean,
us.
couldn't we say at the first opportunity, just period? I mean, if we're giving them 4 years, if they have to come back in 4 years anyway, if there's been no progress at that point, then we would be able to sort of implement a quick.
Does Mr. Klein own, he owns the building as well?
Yes,
right? And
he
so
owns the
this is
commercial
his
property
tenant.
on Connecticut as well as I believe he inherited it. His father passed away, and his father had owned it for a very long time.
I'm not too worried about his amortization, to be frank.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I know there was some sort of rumor that we heard that someone said that the property was being sold or was under contract, and that's not true. I verified that several times, that it's not under contract and there's no sale pending.
Yeah.
Okay, so the resolution as it reads now says approval shall be for 4 years, and they have 7 years to do the paving. Does anybody wish to offer an amendment to that?
I would suggest that the paving be within 4 years, so that it's consistent with the
Okay.
with the red first.
That's
and
a big
also-
expense to
Is there a
us.
second? No, wait, we've debated it. Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Okay. Is there any debate?
I mean, I would favor taking out the requirement for the 7 years or 4 years altogether if they have to come back in 4 years.
That's a separate amendment. So let's,
No, well, I'm saying it's related to this amendment. The same. I'm not striking all of condition 3. I would say related to this amendment, just not to include the 4 years.
That's a friendly amendment to the friendly amendment.
I guess so. Mainly not because I don't see the urgency of it, but if they're coming back in 4 years anyway and they're promising to do it at the first opportunity.
Because I think it sets the bar for in 4 years we're saying, okay, we know in a new agreement here, we're not going to extend it past 3 years if it hasn't gotten done at the first opportunity. I'm fine with the 7 years in here right now. It's setting the middle for the next discussion that we have. And it's still giving them the opportunity to recoup the cost that they're having here. That's how I see it.
okay.
So wait,
I mean,
So there's-
this is pervious pavement is a huge issue. We are the watershed for Rock Creek Park, and if you've ever been in that back lot during a rainstorm,
it was quite something.
like today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a river back there, and I mean, why wouldn't we make every effort that we can to,
Stormwater mitigation.
encourage stormwater mitigation? And this is I mean, he can't afford to do that. I mean, I'm sorry. I find that.
It's a significant cost, isn't it?
Well, they're talking about the cost as an issue.
I know. I mean, I think we've been very sensitive to the cost to our local business owners on this issue and other issues in the past.
He's a commercial property owner. He's not the business owner.
He's
Okay.
not
Okay,
Zip's
all right,
owner.
there's a motion, there's an amendment on the table.
Do you want?
Can I make a comment and just again to clarify some misconceptions? The tenants pay for this. That parking lot gets passed through to Zip's Dry Cleaners and the office tenants on the second floor. It's per the lease, just like these legal fees to do this event. So it's a very expensive process for the tenants, very expensive. And
So that's how their lease reads. The owner, the building owner has put that on the tenants.
that is normal, typical commercial lease. It's not unique to this property. It's unique to it's the same on every one of those properties.
Okay.
So those costs are passed on to the tenant. So, you know, the earlier we do this, just understand that your merchants and your office tenants will be absorbing that cost.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the question. The question on the table now is to amend 7 years for the permanent pavement to 4 years. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, that doesn't pass.
What's the tally?
160. So it continues to read 7 years.
Can we line that up with 2020? Wouldn't that be
That's
6
4 years.
No, we're not gonna make it
Yeah.
line up with anything.
Right.
Well, we're making
seven?
we're
What
making them come back to us in 4
Right, in
years.
4 years.
So,
Right.
you know, I think Pat made a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. That we're setting up an expectation, even though the 7 years falls outside the 4 years before which they have to come back to us. We're making it clear what our expectations are, so when they come back, you know, we'll be well positioned to say, all right, 3 years is it. Hopefully sooner.
Okay. Are there any other amendments? Do you want to suggest striking the whole thing?
No, that's okay. If everyone's comfortable with it, it's fine.
Any other issues?
So I just have a broader question. Sorry to open this back up again. So the overall application is for 19 spaces on this lot. Are those all zips, or are there other, that's the total number for the lot, or are there other
That's the total number.
non-zips? Total number.
And there are non-zip spaces in that
Okay.
lot.
And you're still going to have the same, this is probably obvious to everybody, but you're still going to have the same issue of driving in, parking, and then backing the whole way out to get out. If the parking lot is full, because I experienced that this last weekend. We're not going to do anything about that today until we get all the other owners together and we have a flow-through concept. We're not fixing anything. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay?
Right. We can't do anything about that today.
Yep. No, I understand.
Can I ask one question on condition 9? I'm a little surprised it's still here after all these years, but the attendance shelter, It says no structure other than an attendant shelter.
Yeah.
Why would, I mean, that's from a long, long time ago. How do you all feel about that?
I mean, maybe that'll be
mean,
a solution, that they have somebody out there directing traffic.
I don't know. That's just a very old 1961 parking.
But then again, not knowing what's going to happen with the Burger King parking lot, maybe it's good to leave the door open just in case, you know, all hell
Or
breaks
they'll
loose
be
back there.
combined.
And somebody.
No, it's just interesting. There are no attendants anywhere. You have to prepay. I mean, they're by machines now, so I feel like I don't see what that's going to do. But
Do you want to suggest striking it?
that's what I'm suggesting. I don't see what it's doing.
And so,
I mean, then you
no
get into
structure should
unless
be permitted.
such use or structure is otherwise permitted in the zoning district in which the parking lot is located.
Okay, which part of that are you suggesting to strike specifically? The whole condition? Because I don't think we should strike the whole
No,
condition.
I don't know.
so strike other
I would
than
just
an
say-
attendant shelter, no structure
And no structure
shall be
strike
erected.
Other than an attendant, this is just a friendly, it just seems weird, other than an attendant shelter.
Okay.
No other structure shall be erected or used on the premises, is what I would say.
And that, in case an attendant structure does want to be built, in the unlikely event, it would come back.
They would come back
to us.
to
Okay,
us.
okay.
Or
I think that's-
whatever.
that's a good
meter
choice. That's fine.
thing or something.
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
fine.
have to be a
Okay.
structure.
Any
They're
other-
trying to say this is
Yeah,
a
no.
building.
I get it. I get
Okay.
it. It's
Yeah,
accepted.
that's all, okay.
Quick question on condition 10. What type of lighting do you guys use?
There's no lighting.
There is no
The
lighting.
lighting on the back of the building has been replaced early this spring with LED. It was metal halide.
But there's no lighting actually in the parking lot.
There's no lighting in the park. It casts a shadow if you go by there about 15 feet up into the parking lot.
Yeah, the residents back there
Right.
are really sensitive to the lights.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
This is just a question. I had suggested, just because of all the pedestrian safety issues we have in the area, I've just noticed that people dart from the parking lot across that alley to the zip store, and people are zooming there. And what about doing pedestrian crosswalk markings from the parking lot to the door? Just
Isn't
as
the alley
just as a safety, I'm just.
That's an alley question.
Yeah, it's a
It's
public
it's a
alley.
It's, right, but
Public alley.
maybe we'd have to do that through DDOT,
DDOT,
but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a DDOT question. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
let's-
can
let's
stripe a
finish with this and then we
public
can have
alley.
that conversation. Any other issues that we, on the conditions specifically? Okay, then, let's put it to a vote. All in favor of the conditions as amended? Aye. All opposed? Okay, so it passes, 7-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
For all
it.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for your
you,
efforts with Venice Main Street.
and trying
Yeah.
Yeah.
to get to somebody.
Are they okay with this?
Did you change this?
Yeah, well, this is what we're,
That's what we're okay
this
with.
is what we're okay with. These are our conditions, and this is what we'll submit to
David, did
BZA.
you change this?
Maybe they will convince BZA.
Did you just take out
I
the,
don't know. Okay.
you left the 7, but you were saying do a hard stop. Did we change that?
I thought we did, but
Melody, did we change this to the hard stop?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a,
It's a hard stop here, and then we need to figure out exactly how to word
Yeah.
it. David will come up with
yeah,
something for
okay,
us.
that's what I thought.
need-
I couldn't figure
The
out.
point is it's 7, not 4 here.
Okay.
7 years, not 4 years.
You might check that, we could check.
Okay,
this.
let's move on to the liquor licenses. I don't think,
Why don't you make that? Is there
I
any?
don't know.
Can we make 10 a consent agenda? Do we need to?
Oh, that's good.
so you have the first one.
I don't need to discuss Tesoro.
I'm just going to slip over.
Okay,
Okay.
let's move on. I'd like to get through the liquor licenses quickly. I don't think we need to discuss them in great detail.
I think we've had a lot of back and forth on that.
We've had a lot of back and forth. Let me start with Tesoro. The only significant change to Tesoro from its existing, where did it go? Here it is. From its existing is that they want the option to stay open later, which is something that we're granting to all of the establishments in the neighborhood. They can stay open until 2 a.m. inside and 12 midnight outside. Sally, do you want to give a quick summary of Soapstone and IPK?
Basically,
Very quickly.
we've all just gone over how to have a model settlement agreement based on a CR, which Malachi just discussed. Basically, Tracy and I took that model and I'm sorry, it's been a long night. And we had to modify it because of the B full-service grocery store and the DR restaurant with the sidewalk cafe. So we made, the basic modifications are that we kept the same hours as Tara saw, but you'll be able to do periodic beer and wine tastings, and because you can do growlers, which is a very interesting concept in the city. Number 5 says they have to be in compliance with the regulations. Okay. Everything else is, the main thing we added was the applicant agrees to maintain the sidewalk cafe as a non-smoking outdoor space and conform to the smoking ordinances, because we've had some problems at the corner at Albemarle in Connecticut with the current restaurant and businesses. So this is just something we added. I think what you agreed was a good thing to put for everybody.
Right.
Okay. So other than that, that kind of hits it, right, Grace? That's the only difference. In the Italian Pizza Kitchen, Richard is here, the owner. It is very similar, or it's exactly like Desaro's, because we both added the sidewalk, caffeine, non-smoking, and the noise ordinance regulations. So I think we're all in alignment at this point, if everyone agrees with that.
Could I ask one question, just to clarify? So that means that live music will be allowed in these venues?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes, we took that for Venice Main Streets, yes. But we do have it, it can't prop the doors open.
So thank you for staying this late.
Yeah, we're so sorry.
Let me give you the opportunity to speak if you would like to say anything about this. We're thrilled that you're coming.
Yes.
We're on schedule, so.
Sorry, would you come to the mic, because that broadcasts on our live stream as well.
Come on, John.
Okay, I'm Tracy Stannard, and that's my business partner, John Fielding. So we're really excited about Van Ness. Those BFSOL people were relentless, and they honestly hounded us for 2 years to do this project, and we're really thrilled. They're great partners. They built a beautiful building. We're happy to be part of it. They've been really supportive of us during construction also. I don't know if all of you have been to Broad Branch Market, but Van Ness is going to be different, and the liquor license reflects it.
Cooler.
One of the things that we always wanted was to serve on premise. Like if we had any one comment that people asked us is, "Can I drink a beer outside with my sandwich?" And we always had to say no. We're across the street from a public elementary school, so we'll likely never get that there. So we're excited about how that sort of changes our business model and how it sort of changes the vibe of the place too. So.
And same way people always comment that they're jealous of Chevy Chase DC having Broad Branch. Equally, or maybe more so, people are going to be jealous of Van Ness that it has a soapstone, because it's going to be a really cool business that just hits different marks, like being a coffee shop and breakfast and a deli and a grocery store and a butcher and a restaurant and a bar. I mean, it's just going to be
And a
really-
hangout
It's
space.
going to be, and a community center for
Yeah.
the neighborhood. It's going to be really cool. You guys are
Climbing
going to
wall.
be proud to have it. What's that?
That was my dream, not yours.
climbing
so-
wall?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can add that.
I think we can put that at the Exxon.
yeah. Okay, well, part of the
That's all right.
You can climb the back.
We'll work it into the public
You
space
can climb the
permit.
back of the building from
Okay,
the
all right.
top of
Whoa.
Soapstone Valley.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
can,
where we need it.
actually.
We're on.
Off the bat.
That is actually what you should have asked for back there as a ropes course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been very cool.
Course, yep.
But we're excited,
Yeah.
so. look
So-
forward to
We're
being
excited
involved.
too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for working
And
with
thank you
us.
for picking the name Soapstone too.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's
I hated
really
it when I
charming.
first heard it. I was like, what does that
What
even
does that mean?
And then when she
I was
explained
like,
it to me, I was like,
it's
okay,
so
yeah.
intuitive.
No,
you know?
Okay.
Yeah, we've got lots of
Yeah, it's a
ideas
great
too.
name.
We-
Sometimes she's right.
Sometimes. Do you want me to sign this?
Yes, we
Yeah,
would
can I
love
buy
to.
Well,
Well, we can
Richard,
do it. Let's
Richard, would
start
you like
with Richard.
to say anything?
Yeah.
Let's talk to Richard about
You
that.
got it. You have to wait
You
till
can
then.
sign
We're all
it,
done.
yeah.
No?
But we'll see you next time for the public space.
So the next time
So
for the
that'll,
public space.
right,
I
that'll
did
be
make
great.
some copies of some renderings if you all would like them.
Yes, that would be great.
And I did hint at the public space. So I don't think I have enough for all of you, but you can take one.
Thank you, Tracy. That's great.
So is there anything you'd like to say?
Oh, nothing specific.
No.
Other than,
I want to thank you both establishments for working with me so
no,
well.
we appreciate
Been
the
great.
opportunity to move with the Van Ness changes, and it's kind of nice to hear our new neighbors coming in. And we've been working closely with Sally and Mary Beth and Teresa on any number of things. So we're excited about the new building that's come in, new neighbors moving next door, and we're making internal, external changes so that it's fun for everybody. So,
Yeah,
thank you for the
Now
opportunity.
you get to know that you get to serve spirits, not just beer and wine.
I know you've opened new doors
I
for
know.
me. I really appreciate it.
Grappa.
I was talking about it last night, so we're trying to be
boy.
creative with it in a small kind of way.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Well, thanks for the
Richard.
opportunity.
I'm sorry,
I just
can I
want
ask
to
you
make
for your
one
name?
comment
Richard,
that does not relate to this.
H-E-N-N-I-N-G.
But just, we're going
Because
to
it's not in
have
the
the March
document.
Elementary School
Yeah, it is. Well, but it's in all the
located back
emails.
on the UDC. You heard about that earlier. We've got the nursery school. We've got Burke and Levine and, of course, the UDC and the older kids. But I would just encourage you all to do what you can to somehow engage the young people. I don't know if it's menu items. You guys are so great at that at the Broad Branch Market, the gumballs and everything.
We need to fight them all.
But, just anything that you can do to think of ways to, I don't know if it's kids' menus or whatever, because I would really love to build on that momentum. We're going to have so many more kids. Oh, the Chevy Chase Library, or the Cleveland Park Library, is going to be locating temporarily at UDC.
Which is right
And
across
so
the
that's
street
even
from
more
both of you.
kids.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Working on some sort of promotions to help our businesses all together market to these people who are coming new into the neighborhood.
Okay.
Welcome, Megan.
So we're going to do three separate motions. I'll make a motion to approve the Tesoro settlement agreement as circulated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 7-0-0. Motions.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the settlement agreement as presented for Soapstone Market.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 7-0-0. I didn't
like
even
to
look.
make-
I assumed that was it.
I'm going to throw a wrinkle on the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd
go ahead.
also like to make a motion to support the Italian Pizza Kitchen settlement agreement as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Gee, it's so great when we can.
And
Welcome, guys.
Kudos to Sally for
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours that she's put into
And
these
Rachel
things.
for
And
helping
making
me with
future
it.
ones
And
much
Rachel.
easier as
Thank
Yeah,
well.
they'll all be much easier
Yeah.
and easier on the businesses
Yes.
too, because you now have flexibility
Yes.
to
Yes.
work
Thank
within
you
these
all. Thank the
parameters.
commissioners for looking over everything.
Okay, so we're gonna move to other business. This will be quick. I'm gonna make a motion to disband the Standing Committee on Education, simply because the committee hasn't met in at least 3 years. So we're gonna disband the Standing Committee on Education, disband the Ad Hoc Technical Review Committee, because that was established to deal with the Chick-fil-A application. We don't need that anymore. And to disband the Ad Hoc Technology Committee, because that was established to work on the design of our new website, which is also complete. So that is my motion, to disband those 3 committees.
Second.
Is there any debate?
Can you remind me what the purpose of the educational, or the Standing Committee on Education was or is?
To deal with issues, with education issues in the ANC. I mean, there is no terms of reference.
Well,
so
it was more so when Manoli was here, he was on the Education Committee, and we did more of committee or community meetings with the merged community.
Okay.
And we also did that with Hearst to a certain degree, if you remember.
Right.
I mean, this was before Manoli.
But it could have been with their
But
LSATs
we
on any
also
variety
did
of curriculum or budget
Right.
issues,
We also
whether
did
it was the public schools or UDC or any of the other.
Okay.
Is
Yes.
that right? Or
Yes. We also did some interaction with UDC on their Programs and Causes program initially. The only thing, which I think Mary Beth made a good point, is we could do an ad hoc committee, because there is the potential, which I wrote to all of you. I know there's a lot of emails on this, but there's a preschool, Montessori preschool, French immersion, looking to go into Capitol Memorial Church. They have been silent for a little bit, but this is their end of the year, and I see that heating up. We will definitely need a community, possibly a community committee, as we did for the Jewish Primary Jewish Day School that was coming in at the Owl's Nest. There was big difference, 300 versus 85 students, but actually the Forest Hills Alliance was formed. It was a separate entity than the ANC, but it was formed with residents in the neighborhood to work as a committee, and the ANC had input into that committee. They actually came to the ANC.
So I think the point is that there are issues involving educational institutions, but it's not a long-standing.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and also,
I have no other questions.
What else has happened too is that Malachi and I are on the SIT team, and I try to go to everyone, so we're basically handling that as sole commissioners versus as a committee.
So, and I think that the idea of an ad hoc committee, if there's a discrete issue, I think that's a good one. Okay, so let's put it to a vote. All in favor of the motion to disband those 3 committees? Opposed? None. Passes 7-0-0. Okay, so then I'd like to make another motion to create a standing committee on streets and sidewalks, as mentioned earlier. And the purpose of this, we've discussed this for a while, wanting to get a better handle on the sidewalk situation in our ANC, and also these issues that come up with street signs. There are a bunch in my SMD. There are a lot all over the ANC. So I think
we all have our, and we've talked about this.
So it would be
putting a list together.
Paving. It would be street signs, stop signs, traffic flow, traffic mitigation, that sort of thing, and then also sidewalk issues. But what we need is a structure to prioritize our requests across the ANC and then to carry them forward, to follow up.
Right. Malachi, a lot of that work has already been done by Marlene Berlin and Kappa, and so she should be on this committee if she's willing to serve.
And that's one of the things that the committee does. The committee is the way that we can bring the community into the ANC.
Susan Bauer, I think, is the one.
And actually, she wrote.
That's great.
And Marlene wrote us at 3:30 today about Robert Horton coming from DDOT. I think that's a great idea. maybe not in July, but.
No, so, but that would be something that
definitely,
would.
and maybe
be
it
good
could
for the
be,
committee.
because there is a new Safe Routes to School
Yeah,
coordinator,
I mentioned
which
that as well,
is going to be a bigger help for the situations like your situation, like multiple situations. So we should get DDOT, possibly have a representative on that meeting, on our committee, as well as this new person with Safe Routes to School. I think that's something we really need to go after.
So we'll create the committee, and then the chair will work on that.
Is
So
there a chair?
there isn't yet.
Oh.
I thought I heard David volunteer.
I think so. I think we should incorporate that into the
Yeah.
resolution, in fact.
Let's think about it, because David's going to have his hands full on
I'm
First
gonna
Park.
have my hands full.
I
So
would be-
let's not make that decision tonight.
I think Andrea's mentioned that some time ago.
Is there a budget request for this, or that'll be determined in case we want to do a study or things like that, or should we handle that at a later date?
There's no budget request at this stage.
Okay.
Just want to create the structure.
Is there a way that we can now, because as the only human other than a committee member who's here at 10 o'clock at night, I have a real vested stake in this issue, and I'd like to let other people I know be informed of who to contact.
You can email our commissioner list
Yeah.
for
Let us know
information.
who's going to be the chair who we should contact.
Yeah,
we'll get
How
that out.
much
We
is-
don't, we don't
we're not
know
ready to
right
decide
now.
that tonight.
But you can, commissioners at ANC3F.com, you can send it, we all get it, and you can direct them our way. If you're interested in the committee, I think we're going to make it open to the public, right?
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, just like the soapstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and we'll get the information out.
My hope is to at least participate in it. My last name is Dickinson. If you look on the list, if you're feeling like you need one point of contact, I'd happy to be that interim contact at least.
I spoke to other people who were at that open forum on the way out, and we exchanged emails, so I know they wanted to know.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm gonna have the time to be the chair, but happy to bridge the gap.
I mean, there's something else needs to be done. It's also the traffic study, which we have asked DDOT to do numerous times on numerous streets. And so we need to come up with a way in which to deal with this.
Yeah, no, what we'll need to do is come up with a
Holistically.
work plan. There's a lot of work to do, but not tonight.
Right. No,
Not tonight.
I agree.
So, any other comments, questions? To answer your question, no, I don't have a budget to propose tonight, but.
Itemized.
Okay, so let's put it to a vote. All in favor? Opposed?
I'll second.
None? Oh, thank you. Okay, so it passes 7-0-0. Okay, and then the last item is simply my motion to amend our bylaws, specifically Article 1, the name. It currently reads, where is it? There's established by the Council of the District of Columbia Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3F, open parens, North Cleveland Park, Forest Hills, and Tenleytown, close parens. As I explained in my email, we don't have any of Tenleytown anymore, so I'd like to change what's in parentheses to North Cleveland Park, Wakefield, Forest Hills, and Van Ness. Now, this is simply for information, I think, as I also explained in my email. Officially, we are
North
just
Cleveland Park, Wakefield, and Van Ness?
North Cleveland Park, Wakefield, Forest Hills, and Van Ness.
Where's Wakefield exactly?
That's my SMD. That's the triangle between Nebraska, Albemarle, and Connecticut.
Okay.
Are you going south to north in that list?
I was going north and over and south.
Okay, can I make a friendly amendment that we just make Van Ness first? I think it's what's recognizable, and I know it's not technically a neighborhood on maps, but it's recognizable and it's our metro stop. And, you know, it's also nice that it's consistent with Van Ness Main Street, and branding is really important to our area.
Sure. I don't have a problem with that. So the only places this will appear are our bylaws, and then our
And the
stationery,
website.
and on the website. So that's why, that's why I wanted to make this change. Okay, any other comments, amendments?
So we'll read Van Ness, North Cleveland Park, Wakefield, and
What does that do to our graphics?
Forest
Just
Hills.
asking, because we had it 4 before, and then we took Tenleytown. We took something away. We took.
Well, I'd be in favor of taking it off of our letterhead
Yeah.
and leaving it on the
leaving it off, but that's not something we need to discuss tonight.
So Van Ness, North Cleveland Park, Wakefield, and Forest Hills?
Yes. I think our letterhead takes up too much space.
Well, actually, I like this one. We took it off.
Right.
I mean, I based that on what we had done. I got from you.
Okay, so let's put it to a vote. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? None? Passes. All right, any other business?
Yes, I would like to ask that, are you going to be sending the settlement agreement out to Abra? The approved one, the signed one? Okay. Could the commissioners be copied on whatever's sent to the agencies? Because I think what's happening is sometimes we don't know what the final thing was.
Right. So you get me your person's signature and then send it to me, and I will sign it and I'll send it to Abra.
Right, I'll get Richard. He'd walked out before I could get it. But
So
there's
I'll
Tracy.
take this.
There's Tracy's. Okay.
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 And I will do that, and I'll copy everyone when I send
That'd be great.
Okay.
And can we ask for them to be heard as soon as possible, or at the next board meeting, because actually Soapstone is on a deadline. They may not, because of the placarding, they say replacarding that they did. It's now September. We don't have the problem with, because he's already up and running, but they're not up and running. So they may not get their liquor license until a month after they open. So I can talk to you about this offline, because it's a technicality.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I have a question. Are
Wait.
we off?